do. Test 1 2. Test 1 2. We're back. We're back. So I was going to cover Josh Shapiro on the Breakfast Club first. That took place 3 days ago, and it seems like we're gonna have some like contentious back and forth, which is always going to be fun to watch. But then I saw this story, and I'm like, what is going on here? And as I'm doing research into the story of how MAGA pastors are calling for slavery to come back, I realized that the guy I was looking into that was calling for the return of slavery wasn't actually the guy that the story was written about. So there's now two pastors that are calling for like slavery to come back in America. And of course, like, we're not surprised by this, right? This shouldn't really shock anyone, but there's a big contingent on the right, which is a white supremacist movement that has always wanted slavery to come back. So here we go. Christian nationalist pastor Joel Webbin, known for his inflammatory takes on race and politics, is under fire again after claiming black Americans should be grateful for slavery and white people.
A tantrum. Stop being a little boy. You're whining and crying about something that's ultimately your fault.
Yeah.
Stop blaming it on other people. It's your fault. Because here's the deal. It's like, what was slavery? The
couldn't resist doing the black scent there.
richest black people on God's green earth are African Americans. If slavery never happened, then you would be in a grass hut.
Yeah.
Right? Well, we need reparations. Your reparations are that you get to live in America. You're welcome. Hey, cut it out. You need to grow up. Stop.
What the fuck? Dude, what does he think Africa is? Does he think Africa is just like a series of uncontacted tribes that like are filled with a bunch of cannibals? Like, dude, this man has a colonist mindset from 200 years ago, and he's saying that you get to live in America. Yeah. America's not the best place for people to live right now. I'm sorry to say, but bro, obviously this is insane, but this is where it starts. There was the whole idea of banning critical race theory in Florida schools, and we actually have to put into textbooks how slaves learned useful skills while serving their white masters, right? It wasn't all bad. Some learned how to crack corn. They even wrote a song about it, right? Some learned how to cook. Some were able to take French lessons because that was the bougie thing to do of the day, to have a French-speaking slave. Like, it starts off with the rewriting of history, and then the normalization of like slavery wasn't that bad, right? And then that's going to, I mean, the ultimate goal is to have segregation, right? That's the ultimate goal of these people. Like, have either written into law segregation or an unwritten segregation where essentially like the cops do the bidding of the white people get to have segregated neighborhoods, the white people get to have segregated schools, drinking fountains. These people are just simply racist. They are just hateful. They just don't like black people. They're scared of black people. They're self-conscious. They're worried that their position in society is going to be taken from them by minorities, by people of color. And so they desperately cling on to that social status, and that manifests itself in like fear, hatred, and racism. And then they want that racism to be codified in society. They want to be justified for their racism. And if black people weren't, like, they didn't get the bad end of the stick during slavery, then if they're suffering now, that's because they're simply worse than white people, right? That's the whole idea of downplaying the severity of slavery, saying that like, oh, well, the critical race theory is bullshit because everyone starts off on those same playing field. Slavery was like not the best thing in the world, but it's not as bad as people are making it out. If you as a black person are suffering, that must be because black people are just like genetically inferior than white people. And they'll say, oh, it's the culture of black people, right? But, you know, culture is code for genetics. So this is just straight up racism. Then you have this guy, Joshua Hames, giving a nice little podcast here. Let's see. I'll let Kyle play the clip here.
Hames. And this guy is Pete Hegseth's pastor. And he said this into a microphone in the year of our Lord 2025. Listen to this.
The institution of slavery is not inherently evil. I know.
Also, there is a lot of slavery in the Bible, and a lot of apologists they put in a good amount of work defending the slavery of the Bible.
You guys are upset by that? Some of you guys are saying, I've been saying that for years. Okay, I'll take it a step further. It is not inherently evil to own another human being. I know, just wait. Some of you guys are really upset, but let's talk through this because it is very important that every Christian affirm what I just said. And not only should they affirm it, every Christian in today's society should be able to defend what I just said, okay?
I know a lot of you are watching this and your jaw's on the ground and you're like, holy...
Every Christian should be able to defend slavery. Why would you say that, bro? Why the fuck would you say that? This is Right Wing Watch from 3 days ago. Let's just look it up on Twitter. This is this guy's Twitter, by the way. What is he saying? What is he saying? So he has a son who needed a new kidney. Endorsing Republican. We don't celebrate demonic pagan holidays in America. Oh, and it's for Diwali or Diwali. Holy shit, dude. Just calling like a massive Indian holiday a demonic holiday. Jesus Christ. Those group chats were really problematic. I have the perfect idea for the Charlie Kirk Memorial. What? The Black Tucker Carlson Jr. I honestly thought that was someone pissing on Charlie Kirk. Once again, AI is just destroying everything. Dude, why is this man actually just going on a rampage against Diwali? So he's pro-slavery, anti-Diwali. Okay. Oh, and then he's crying about Charlie Kirk. I am a slave of Jesus Christ. He's like, no, slavery is good because I'm a slave of Jesus Christ. Oh, he responded to his own clip. All right, so let's listen to what his clip is.
The institution of slavery is not inherently evil. I know. Some of you guys are upset by that. Some of you guys are saying, I've been saying that for years. Okay, I'll take it a step further. It is not inherently evil to own another human being. I know, just wait. Some of you guys are really upset, but let's talk through this because it is very important that every Christian affirm what I just said. And not only should they affirm it, every Christian in today's society should be able to defend what I just said, okay? Every Christian should be able to defend it. Big evangelicalism has been getting this wrong for years, basically since the advent of Big Eva. They haven't had a good answer for the slavery issue. All right, Christians in America have been led astray on this topic. They've been led to believe things that the Bible doesn't teach. And when we go beyond the Bible, there are dire consequences. The institution of slavery is not.
Bro, like, Christians have been led astray on the slavery question. Okay. Yeah, we know that Christianity was a big part in upholding the institution of slavery in the antebellum period, and we're seeing it now used as a way to like justify slavery now 150 years later. Like, people want to act like Christianity informs humans' morals. It informs their morality. And then you get guys like this. Like, it is just out of the question that Christianity is, I mean, all organized religion, let's be honest, is a tool of oppression. That's what religion is. It really is a tool of, like, supplanting the class issues of the working class people, of poor people, and controlling them, and then oppressing minority groups. That's what religion is. So, yeah, but like, it's fucking crazy that this guy's the pastor that was at Pete Hegseth's church. He's getting a lot of engagement on his tweets, on his posts. He's just posting like out and about and like completely disgusting anti-Indian racism, calling Diwali a demonic holiday, and then justifying slavery happening. I'm not even saying that slavery gave black people some good tools, that they learned good skills from it, but just being like, no, it's like the institution of slavery is actually good, by the way. So what does he have to say? He responded to his own clip. He says, "It is not inherently sinful for one image bearer to own another. Slavery as an institution is not inherently evil. That being said, man stealing is inherently sinful and clear. So if you steal a piece of bread to feed yourself or your family, that's inherently sinful. But if you own someone else, that's not a sin." Maybe they should have had an 11th commandment, but I guess Moses thought that was too fucking obvious to have to write down. Thus, any form of slavery that includes man stealing is evil. Any form of slavery that includes man stealing is evil? Okay. So that's all forms of, what would you call it? You're stealing people's labor, you're stealing their time, you're enslaving them. Like if you want to call that stealing, I'm all for it. That's the ultimate form of stealing. Like this is just religious bullshit that he's spewing right now. Why is this important? Because to posit that all forms of slavery are inherently evil is to accuse God of helping institute and regulate an evil system for the nation of Israel in the Old Covenant. Yeah, he did. Guess what God did that's also evil in the Old Testament? Genociding the entire fucking world, dude. What do you mean? How are you are you going to justify genocide next? And yes, the answer is yes, he is going to justify genocide. God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. If owning another person is inherently evil today, dude, holy shit, I'm not religious, and I have a better apologetics to this than he does. He's like, God said that people should have slavery, so thus, slavery is not evil. He's like, God said that people should have slavery. Everything God says is good, so slavery must be good. That's his logic chain. But the real apologetics is God said God said the people should own slaves. People were owning slaves in a brutal way. Slavery's bad. At the time when God wrote the First Testament or the Old Testament, people were owning slaves in a brutal way. He gave them rules to own slaves in a more humane way. That's a good thing that God did. And then God knew that once he set the path to a more humane treatment of slaves, eventually humans would get rid of slavery. So it's like, so God set us on the path to get rid of slavery through his rules of slavery. Like, that's the apologetic. That's a proper Christian apologetics, to be like, the people at the time couldn't handle the radical idea of not having slavery, so God gave them the gentlest of pushback so that they would arrive at that conclusion themselves. Not that slavery's good as an institution. Like, that's fucking insane. Like, dude, if he wants to say that what God said in the Bible is good, or at least not inherently evil, then he actually has to justify what was said in the Bible, which is like, you can sell children into slavery. You can beat your slaves. And if they die, that's a bad thing. But if they get up within 3 days, you're all good. That's completely fine. Like, this is insane, dude. And this is what I'm talking about. This is not coming from a religious standpoint. This is coming from a political standpoint of, I don't like black people. I like the institution of American slavery. I'm going to utilize religion to help me I'm going to wield religion to help me justify the institution of chattel slavery in America. I think he's saying slavery is okay if you don't steal a free person. He's saying like, if you sell yourself into slavery, but he's not saying that it's like slavery is inherently evil. He's saying that it's like, because God said that slavery was good, then we can have slavery. But once again, in the Old Testament, God said you can beat your slaves. If owning another person is inherently evil today, then it was inherently evil in ancient Israel, and thus you can accuse God of engaging in evil. I'm exceedingly happy that white Christians abolished slavery. I don't know if you're exceedingly happy about that. Also, white Christians did not abolish slavery. I believe that it was gospel logic working its way out into cultural institutions that had led to the abolition of slavery. In other words, I'm glad it's gone, good riddance, but we must never accuse God of engaging in evil. The word of God is the ultimate and final authority. So, following this logic, why is he happy that slavery was abolished? Wouldn't he want to reform the institution of slavery rather than abolish it outright? The guy is just a complete charlatan here. Is he in? Oh, he's in the replies. It's actually quite simple. Slavery is not an absolute evil, but it certainly can be a relative evil. Once again, relative and absolute evil. These are meaningless statements. They're meaningless qualifiers that he's adding onto evil. This is just made up religious mumbo jumbo. It's like a D&D speech, except D&D has more rigidity and structure to its rule system than religious people do. Absolute evil, relative evil. It's complete bullshit. And it also depends on what kind of slavery we're talking about, because pagan forms of slavery often consist of man-stealing, which is evil. Also, it's quite easy to address the fruit of the gospel argument. Why doesn't he explain what a good form of slavery is? There can be institutions and regulations that are sub-creational but not inherently sinful. Sub-creational but not inherently sinful? Therefore, as many peoples as a people submits more and more of their culture and their institutions to Christ, the second Adam, many of these sub-creation realities will dissipate. This guy's on some fucking Lovecraftian bullshit right now. We're referring to Christ as the second Adam. I've been to church for a good part of my life. I've never heard of Christ referred to as the second Adam. I've never heard of sub-creational realities. What is he on? What is this, man? This is actually just the most purest form of fascist Christianity, where you actually have pagan religions where it's like, this is the reincarnation of Adam. There's nothing in the Bible about Jesus being the reincarnation of Adam. A sub-creation reality? And then we have absolute evils and relative evils. This is Norse mythology fused with Christianity. And then you get this weird fucking fascist bullshit where you can justify enslaving people. Yeah, this article from the government, or from the Guardian. The fuck? Ex-pastor at Pete Hegseth's church calls for public executions and says Bible backs ICE raids. Jesus Christ, dude. The U.S. Defense Secretary Hegseth has repeatedly endorsed a Reformation Red Pill podcast and has appeared on 4 episodes. Oh, we need to watch his podcast. But the former pastor who hosts the show and who attended Hegseth's theocratic church has voiced a range of extreme positions in recent months on issues including ICE raids, capital punishment, the racist Great Replacement theory, adultery, and neo-Nazism. This guy too, Joel Webbin. Look at what the Joshua Haim said on Twitter too. He said, responding to Matt Walsh, he said that adulterers should be executed. That's what he says on Twitter. He's a member of the CREC Online Pilgrim Health Reformed Fellowship. His podcast advocates for the CREC's moral and theological positions. As The Guardian previously reported, he once served as a pastoral intern at the church. Online, he has claimed that liberalism is a greater threat to the U.S. than neo-Nazism, and that the Bible is pro-ICE raids. On X, he also advocated for capital punishment for adultery and abortion. There we go. And appeared to call for the drowning of LGBTQ plus pride marchers. In an emailed comment, Hames clarified his current professional role. I'm not a pastoral intern. I've gone full-time into media and content creation. I'm not employed by Pilgrim Hill Reformed Fellowship, he said. Despite distancing himself from the PHRF, Hames regularly hosts Brooks Pottinger, the congregation's pastor and Hegseth's closest spiritual advisor. Like, dude, this is what I'm saying. These religious people are the vanguard of the conservative movement. They're picking up kind of a vague, empty, it's really an empty ideology other than get rich people richer that the conservatives have. That's the only thing they care about. And so there's so much room to fill the void. Donald Trump filled it with populist bullshit, but I think increasingly more and more we're seeing far right religious radicals try to fill the void with religious fascist bullshit. Right now, we're justifying slavery. We want to execute people that are getting abortions. We want to execute adulterers. Nazism is better than liberals. Nazism is good. Like, we're seeing this come to the forefront of this movement. These complete crackpots are literally like advising these people. They're spiritual advisor. Didn't Donald Trump's spiritual advisor just get caught with child porn like a few weeks or a month ago? These people are morally rotten down to their core. Okay, Joshua Hames has appeared on 4 consecutive episodes of the Reformation Red Pill podcast. The Bible is pro-ICE raids. That's a banger. Oh, and he says that he's pushing the Great Replacement conspiracy theory, so you have a healthy dose of anti-Semitism in there. Tim Whitaker, a co-host of the New Evangelicals podcast, told The Guardian, this idea that mass immigration is designed by liberal globalists to destroy Anglo-Protestant culture, this is literally what the KKK preached. He said that on immigration, Hames had adduced classic white supremacist talking points, adding, as a Christian, I reject such claims. Whitaker said, they call themselves followers of Christ, but then when Jesus says to welcome the stranger in that world's really better translated as immigrant or refugee, that is ignored. Yeah, I mean, you can't say as a follower of Christ, I reject ICE raids, when another guy saying as a follower of Christ, I embrace ICE raids. In the podcast, Hames also appeared to regret the demise of the slaveholding U.S. Confederacy, depicting it as a constitutional matter during which the South simply wanted to secede, and Lincoln and the North federal government said, no, you may not secede, and we'll kill you if you try. He added, the South was conquered in a sense, which is sad, and yeah, we really did lose that federalism, that localism in that, and then the federal government blew up. I mean, expanded in a way that it was never meant to, and we've never recovered from that. I pray that we can recover from that, but we haven't. Terms like anti-Semitic don't mean anything anymore. Yeah, I mean, it's just absolutely disgusting all around, and it's the same type of pro-Nazi, like anti-women, anti-minority group rhetoric that you see from those guys like the Young Republicans in the group chat that was leaked, except this is wrapped up in a veneer of religiosity. Same exact bullshit that Charlie Kirk was spewing on a daily basis. Yeah, and then you have this guy being like, blacks actually benefited a lot from slavery because now they got a free boat ride to America. You have this article. These far-right influencers are all in on chattel slavery. A strain of explicit pro-slavery sentiment is coursing through the outer extremes of the MAGA movement. Operatives and influencers aligned with the movement, which has made the treasonous Confederacy into a cause célèbre, and sought to keep the history about the brutality of chattel slavery out of public view, have been documented in recent weeks, offering wholehearted defenses, if not outright support. Joshua Hames, a far-right podcast host, we just saw this. He said the institution of slavery is not inherently evil. It's not inherently evil to own a human being. A right-wing watch noted, Hames said it was chronological snobbery to condemn the United States' slave-owning founders who could in fact treat their slaves the way the Bible tells them to treat their slaves, and that although he condemns slave owners who actually engaged in a real abuse, Christians cannot condemn the entire institution of slavery outright. And this, boys and girls, is why it is of vital importance that people gain class consciousness, because there is no greater distinction of class than a literal fucking slave who's born into slavery and has the fruits of their labor stolen from them every single moment of every single day. There is no more need, there is no like greater outcry for class consciousness than a fucking slave. And so if Americans were armed and they had been armed with a good understanding of class consciousness through their school system, this type of argument would have no place to land. Saying that only stealing is bad, and so slavery is not bad in and of itself. What the fuck do you think slavery is? That's the definition of stealing. What are we on right now? Oh, and then MSNBC says, for the record, all slave owners engaged in real abuse because claiming ownership over another human is inherently abusive. Beyond that, a great many slave owners literally raped, beat, or killed the people they enslaved. Yeah, not to mention just like, I mean, they said owning another human is inherently abusive, but making someone work for you day in and day out is also abuse, and it is also stealing. Christ loves everyone no matter their stance on ICE. I don't know if Christ would like ICE agents, I have to say. He got pretty pissed off when people were doing trades in the temple, right? Jesus got pretty pissed off about that. I think he'd get a little bit triggered by ICE. He might turn some of their tear gas into vinegar or something like that. Oh yeah, and then this is the other MAGA pastor that we saw, Joel Webbin, who said that black people would be living in a grass hut if not for the white people who held their ancestors in bondage. GOP operative Peter Giunta reportedly endorsed a conservative group he said supports slavery and all that shit, mega based. Oh yeah, Peter Giunta is also in favor of slavery. What a bold take. And in at least one example, the MAGA movement's fascination with slavery appears to not be merely about relitigating the past, but setting a path for the future. Earlier this month, Media Matters captured pro-Trump streamer Zach Hoyt, who goes by the name Asmongold online. Oh yeah. Dude, I literally forgot that Zach Hoyt was Asmongold. I see why he has a pseudonym. Saying federal agents enacting Trump's anti-immigration crackdown shouldn't harm protesters only because I would want to utilize their bodies for compelled slave labor. Love to see Asmongold joining the growing chorus of absolute basement-dwelling freaks that are calling for slavery to either be reinstitutionalized or saying that it wasn't that bad. Good job, Zach Hoyt. Good job. Like, dude... No, I have no respect for him. I have no respect for him. Charlie Critical, I have some respect for. Like, he's a guy. He's a guy. Hoyt? I'm just categorizing him in the same folder in my mind that Giunta is in, that Hames is in, that Joel Webbin is in, just absolute scum of the earth that are just right-wing provocateurs saying the most disgusting things they can think of in order to get a reaction. I have no sympathy for Hoyt at all. I think he's an absolute scumbag and a loser. I think he's a loser. I don't think he means a lot of the things he says, and that honestly makes it even worse. Because if you don't mean the things you say, you can't be convinced otherwise. Because you're saying it for other reasons other than that's what you actually believe, or that's what you've been logicked into, or you've been convinced of. Like, holy fuck, dude, it's so gross. This country's so fucked. Okay. So yeah, there we go. If you want to see Kyle's take on it, go check it out. Mega Christian Podcaster says bring back slavery, and he's not the only one. I wonder if Kyle covers some of the other people. Who's this guy?
No, you're too pure.
Here you have Dick. There's no place for
No, Israel did not kill Charlie Kirk.
whatsoever. Here we have a MAGA pastor named Shane Vaughn, and listen to what he says about Charlie Kirk.
No, Israel
I didn't even cover this guy.
did not kill Charlie Kirk. Satan did. And God allowed it.
God allowed Charlie Kirk to be murdered. By the way, let me just say, side point here, but this guy and the other guy we just showed, they look like total closet cases. They look like as they lay their head down on their pillow at night, all they do is yearn for dick. All they want to do is gargle balls. That's what it looks like to me. Massive closet cases. That's what a lot of these people are.
For reasons that we may never know, But here's what I do know. When I tell you something, there is something I have had my finger on the pulse of this nation for.
Just don't mention where your finger's been. Like, let's leave that to yourself.
5 years.
Sure you have.
I told you what the problem was. They were turning him in. There was Tucker and him were like this. They were turning Charlie against God's chosen people. And God said, no, not today. No. No, you're too pure and you have too much influence.
Wow.
Bro, what? So Israel didn't kill them, but actually Israel just kicked the can down the road and God killed Charlie Kirk for Israel. You're not making a good case for Israel, dude. If you're trying to say that we should actually support Israel and Charlie Kirk, a lot of people are saying that Charlie Kirk was murdered by Israel. That's anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and actually we need to protect God's chosen people. You're not protecting them by saying that God killed Charlie Kirk for them. That makes it even worse. Okay, at least he didn't advocate for slavery in this clip. Like, thank fucking God. He's saying that God is carrying out political assassinations, but he's not calling for slavery. I think that's like a step above the preachers that we covered. Holy God, man. Israel didn't do it. God did it for Israel. Okay. I want to watch a little bit of this because I've seen some funny shit coming out of this. Man, it's 52 minutes long. Maybe we should just watch clips of it. Is there a most replayed section?
You have an independent, autonomous commission. All these men and women who left their careers when Eric Adams was not prosecuted but was saved by the Trump administration and out of
God's choded people. Okay, we'll watch this a little bit later. I also wanted to get into this. So this was 3 days ago. This was a week ago. I'm interested in seeing some of this shit with Cory Booker.
On fascists. Yeah. So have a really frank discussion where we all learn and get more clarity on issues.
Listener, the hot book of the summer,
Lifestyle. Thompson, I love this project since.
You
know, is this going to be your first wife?
Yeah. She gets mad when I call her my ex-girlfriend.
That's a funny joke. That's a really good joke. Calling your wife your ex-girlfriend.
It will be my only wife. I'm such a nerd that I look at and I'm so afraid of, since I was in my 20s, like marriage doesn't work out. So I did the research for guys getting married in their 50s. The divorce rate is very low.
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean,
guys getting married for their first time in their 50s.
I think so. I think we're much better people by the time we're in our 50s. And so that makes sense.
Much more. People keep saying, oh, you waited for the right one. And I go, no. I said, I waited until I became the right one. Because I wouldn't have wanted to date myself in my 30s.
All right, Senator Booker, what have you had it with?
I've had it with being single. 100%. Being single is not fun, especially when you're trying to date. And as a United States Senator, it's been a difficult, challenging time. So I've had it with that, and I'm very psyched that I'm getting married.
When's the wedding?
We're going to do it before the end of the year, quick. We don't want to wait long, and we both want to get married quick, and we're both hoping to have kids at some point sometime soon. So.
What?
There's a lot to do.
Are you gonna adopt?
Well, we want to talk to you about, the country. And it feels like the Democratic opposition is just not getting it. There are votes that you've made that were heartbreaking to me, like the vote for Kushner. That really pissed me off because I feel like this administration, it's not, are they fascist? They are fascist. It's not, we're on the precipice of fascism. We have Pritzker.
Bro, they're like, oh, what have you had it with? He's like, I've had it with being single. Let's talk about my marriage more. And they're like, okay, you're not understanding this. The Democratic opposition is not getting it. He's like, oh shit, this is a serious interview. Dude, who gives a fuck who he's marrying, man? It's a political marriage. He's saying, like, they bring him on to talk about Donald Trump, and he's like, what have you had it with? I've had it with being single. Can we talk about my wifey more? Dude, are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my god. At least he's not a... Okay, like... At least he's not fucking wearing sneakers into Congress and getting interviewed by Juan Don Lemon about how cool his fucking shoes are. At least he's not doing that. At least he's like being a little bit professional.
Texas is sending troops to Illinois. I mean, and I feel like the opposition needs to be fuck no across the board. We're not giving you a centimeter. And I think there's been a lot of capitulation. I think there's been a lot of Neville Chamberlain type appeasement from Democratic leadership. And you're one of them that's kind of been disappointing to me, because we podcasted before. They're serious about Project 2025. They're going to do all this shit. And they're doing every single bit of it. So what do you think? What do you have to say about the capitulation that you participated in and where the Democratic Party is right now?
Well, first of all, I would say very pointedly that one of the things I dislike about the Democratic Party is that we do a circular firing squad all the time. Their party, they disagree. There's wild disagreements in the Republican tent, and yet they don't shoot at each other. And we have a really good way of holding up these purity tests. So if I agree with you on 95,
that's such bullshit. That is such bullshit. They fire at each other all the time. Trump has sent so many people out to pasture, so many people that he calls rhinos. Liz Cheney can tell you that they have.
I hate this game so much. I've been fighting this bear for 2 days now. I can't beat the bear. I cannot beat the bear. This game is pissing me off so much. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm gonna where are those videos where it's like prepare to cry?
The firing.
Okay. Sorry. Back to politics. Cory Booker, he says, when asked, what are you going to do to resist Donald Trump? He says, well, I think the left has an issue with purity testing. That's what he said. That's what he said. They ask him, how are you going to resist Donald Trump? He says, stop purity testing me. Stop purity. That's not a purity test, you dumb bitch. That's asking for action against a fascist administration. If you are a wet noodle and not capable of doing anything, not capable of resisting Donald Trump at all, and people demand you to leave office, or you get primaried, or whatever the fuck, that is not getting purity tested. That's you being replaced by someone who's actually effective at their job, at the same job that you claim to be working at. Oh my god. I'm so sick of getting tired. I'm so sick and tired of getting purity tested by people that want me to do work. Yeah, we're purity testing people for to actually be effective at their job. I'm sorry that you don't meet that. You don't meet that requirement. If that's a purity test, then fucking sue me. You're getting purity tests out then.
Squad as well. It's not a purity test. It's a are we in this fight, and are we being beholden to corporations and corporate interests, or are we really the party of the working class? And that's what I think the message is.
Two things I'll say. First of all, if everybody in your coalition agrees with you on everything, your coalition's not big enough. If we don't have disagreements, if we don't have disagreements, then we're talking in an echo chamber. Thank God I sit in a caucus with people. I couldn't win in some of my colleague states, perhaps, but we have lots of different agreements. But we are united in the fight against Trump. And I'll say number two, which is really important, is that we feel the existential urgency. And even though we don't agree on everything, I'm in the trenches with some of the best fighters I have, from veterans like Mark Kelly and Tammy Duckworth, who have, I know Mark's voted on some people I didn't vote for. So we may not be absolutist, but the fighters that I'm in the trench with right now, the sacrifices that they're making for this fight is pretty tremendous. So I have disagreements with a lot of people. Look, I'm one of a handful of people that don't take corporate PAC money. I don't understand my Democratic.
What about APAC money? You take APAC money, don't you?
A minuscule percentage of my resources come from.
I read it's like 800,000.
Yeah, well, that's a lifetime number of raising tens of millions. Let me give you the right stat. The majority of my money comes from small dollar contributions. By last report, I think 76% of it came from people that gave $25 or less. So this to me is about, again, we could pick at each other.
Bro, I don't take corporate money, but I take APAC money.
Conviction to condemn it. And again, I'm a child of civil rights activist. You think Malcolm X and Martin Luther King agreed on everything? No. Do you think Fred Shuttle? In fact, Ella Baker had lots of criticisms about King. But when it came to the fight, they joined together and created a movement that was successful. And that's really my focus. As the only person in the caucus that lives in a low-income black and brown neighborhood below the poverty line. I still remember when some progressives from the suburbs came down to protest me, and they were literally chased away by my neighbors because we are...
Fucking eat that blade in your brain, you little goddamn Winnie the Pooh bitch. Oh God, I just ate a ham hock to the face. Oh, I survived. Okay. All right. This is
in a urgency every day. I see it.
I'm just reenacting Cory Booker dodging the "I've had it" podcast questions. Oh shit, I just got God. Okay, so he's like, people like to purity test me too much. He says, on the left, we have an issue, or not on the left, in the Democratic Party, we have an issue with purity testing. Next fucking sentence. I love the diverse coalition that we have. I'm so happy that we have so many different ideologies among the left, or among the Democrats. So are we purity testing too much, or do we have a healthy and diverse coalition in which disagreements can be had? Fucking loser. Like, dude, come up with something and stick with it. These fucking lib do-nothing Democrats don't have anything to do. Like, they don't have any narrative to stick to. And so they just waffle back and forth. I'm getting purity tested when I'm being criticized. Or it's like, okay, well, can you fight against Donald Trump? Well, I think there's a big tent and I want to try to represent everyone. Dude, pick a fucking narrative.
An urgency where real people are getting hurt. When I go up and down in New Jersey, they don't care about the fact that I took 1% of my money from some group. They care about, what are you doing to restore my health care? What are you doing to fight for my...
And she just asked you, what are you doing to fight against Donald Trump? And you responded with, why are you trying to purity test me?
The fact that I can't make rent. And in my caucus right now, we're standing up and fighting for those things and not capitulating, as you said, to Donald Trump's attempts to deny 22 million Americans health care, to see healthcare costs double for lots of them.
Well, I think the base feels like right now, and I know that you're in the Beltway, but I think the Democratic base feels like there is a disconnect. Like, we hear you, like when you did your 25-hour speech, I was like, go, Cory, I love this. That is amazing. And then there's a photo shoot with you with Benjamin Netanyahu. And I was just like, what in the actual fuck? Like, how can he do that? It was heartbreaking. I felt betrayed. Yeah, and that doesn't just happen in an echo chamber. It's important when there are Democrats like you, where the base, we should make each other better. We need to evolve. And I love that you come on here. We need to have these conversations. It's not a purity test. We want credible messengers, because when we are down the middle and beholden to corporate interests, then we leave this vacuum, and that's how fascism has flourished. And so for myself and a lot of our listeners, when I saw the picture with Benjamin Netanyahu, I felt like it diminished your 25 hours. That's how it felt to me.
So a few things.
One is, I work in the
Beltway. I live in the Central Ward in Newark, New Jersey. Streets that a lot of folks tell folks, why would you demean and degrade my communities? I keep a little picture here of the first place I represented in 28 years old, which is a Black community that's struggling. And we've transformed our schools, our supermarkets, new parks, urban farms, and the like. And the wonderful thing about those folks that I serve is that none of them question where I stand and how long, for more than a quarter of a century, have I stood with the people in their neighborhoods. Number two, so I may work in the Beltway, but I know where I came from and I know who got me here. And it's the struggling people that our party has done a pretty shitty job for, to be honest with you.
I agree.
Okay, number two, when you say things like Kushner, this, whatever, I remember the people who actually, when the Democratic Party was doing things like passing crime bills that put Black people like me, when I was in my 20s and stopped by the police all the time, behind bars, the Democratic Party failed and fueled mass incarceration. And so the people that were there for me 30 years ago, doing prisoner reentry programs, getting people jobs and housing, I'm sorry. People like Kushner, who was there 30 years ago fighting for those fights, I'm not going to forget that they fought for Black people when other people seem to be gung-ho with, hold on.
Wait, is this the first CARE Act? What was that act called that you passed?
Well, that was the First Step Act.
What was that? Okay, I've read about that. That's really good. Yes, it's excellent.
And I'm sorry.
This is kind of, I guess it's fine for you guys, but he's so close to the camera. He is so close to the camera. It's distracting me. Do these bears not even drop anything good? I've literally been trying to kill it like for 2 days now.
I have to work across the aisle, and Charlie Kushner but for him, it wouldn't have gotten done. So when I go home, people do know people that got out of prison because of the First Step Act, and they knew the bipartisan coalition. Third, I'm sorry. I have real problems with Benjamin Netanyahu. Outrageous things that he's doing. The way you fight for those things is you sit down face to face with somebody and you fight with them.
No, it's not. What are you talking about?
In the eye, like me and Klobuchar and a whole bunch of other people.
That's completely false. It's not the way you fight to end genocide. You end genocide by stopping the weapons shipments to the genociding country. That's what you do. I like to sit down with Netanyahu and appeal to him. That just shows you're a stupid ass politician. That just shows that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Netanyahu is not going to end the genocide because that's what's keeping him in power in Israel, right? If he ended the genocide, he'd be out on the street. He'd be in prison. He'd be in an Israeli prison if he ended the genocide. That's if he's lucky. If he's not lucky, he'd be at the Hague, like getting tried at the Hague. He'd be in an international criminal court prison. Like, dude, what the fuck do you mean? I'm going to debate bro Netanyahu out of genociding Palestinians. Although he doesn't think it is a genocide, I guess. He's just like, delivered 2% more food so that instead of 1 out of every 3 children dying, it will be 1 out of every 4 children dying. That will be great.
And talk to them about humanitarian aid. And if people want to criticize me for it, then go ahead. But I'm leading in the Senate on West Bank crises right now from their attempts to annex it or illegal settlements. I lead the legislation to sanction the people that are doing that. I can stand strong on my principles and still work to end these things. And I don't mind taking criticism, from folks that don't necessarily agree with my tactics. But we on this podcast right now, we share the same aim. Ceasefire now, humanitarian aid now, return the hostages now. Do you
think he's a war criminal, Benjamin Netanyahu? Do you think he's a war criminal?
Again, these are questions that a lot of people think are the important litmus tests that are loaded and hot. My urgency is to be an effective leader in bringing an end to this crisis.
It's not loaded and hot. And also, if you really wanted to bring an end to the crisis, you would not be talking with Benjamin Netanyahu. You would be leading votes to ban weapons sales to Israel. That's what you'd be doing.
And I get these questions all the time.
Also, like banning weapon sales is the first thing. We also need to sanction the fuck out of Israel so that they allow the UN to feed Palestinians. The idea that aid is being sent to Gaza and Israel is the one facilitating that aid is insane to me. Why are we letting the people that want to ethnically cleanse everyone from that area, why are we letting them feed the people in that area? Oh my God.
That to me undermine my urgency.
I think the thing that Democrats get so frustrated with, where we are right now, where you see like the Zoran Mondanis and the Graham Plattners rise up,
like I'm in the Revenant
they can go on podcasts and you can say, do you think Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal? And they just say, yes. And that's the end of it. It's not all of the rhetoric answering. It's like what happens to Democratic politicians, they go through this like prism and then we can't ever get like the answer to yes or no conversations like you do with Bernie and others. And that's the frustration for the Democratic
leadership. Do I think Netanyahu is worse than Trump? Yes. Do I think that we right now in America should be doing everything possible to bring peace, not just to that crisis, but to the ones that shock me that no one talks about. And I don't know if you guys have or not, but crises like Sudan, where there are American weapons literally causing horrific, in fact, by double, triple, quadruple, it's the biggest humanitarian crisis that we're not talking about as a country. When I was coming up, everybody was talking about Darfur. Now the moral silence is outrageous when American weapons are being used in that conflict.
And the same with Israel. I mean, our weapons and even Democratic politicians signed them before they were sent over to kill kids. I really feel like if we get through this fascism, we have to have conversations like this, Senator. I think it's
you're right. You're right. As a Democratic Party,
you idiot.
As a black guy in America, there are so many things we don't talk about that we need to have an honest conversation about. You're right. I work in a place that corruption has been accepted. Why are people taking corporate patent money?
God.
Why are people trading stocks? I hold myself to the standard of what I want to see other elected officials. If I was a guy in Newark that I talk to about that don't believe their politicians stand and fight for them. And so I agree with you that there are real corruption.
No! What the fuck? Oh my God! Why is it so far down here? Run! Oh my God! It's still chasing me. How did it get down here? Bro, no! This is too much stress. This is too much. Oh, you chased me. Ugh. Now I know how it feels to be Cory Booker with Rachel Welch chasing after you the entire time. You're just trying to survive, and she jumps down the cliff after you and just slices you in the fucking back. I didn't know it could jump down the cliff too.
That we tolerate, that we need to do something about. Campaign finance is one of the things. This is why I do not take certain money from everything from oil company C-suite folks to pharma company C-suite folks. These are all things that I believe. But every day that I get up here, I know the people of New Jersey want me to fight for them and their interests. And so when it comes to the fights we're in right now, I'm happy to be in a trench with everybody in my caucus, from Mark Warner all the way to Bernie Sanders, the whole caucus. We are united in a fight right now that I'm hoping, despite the disagreements within the Democratic tent, that we all can unify and say it's outrageous for people's healthcare costs to double their premiums. It's outrageous for 22 million Americans to lose their health.
A good stump speech. Tell me how you're actually going to fight against that. Dude, this is what I want. I just want the Democrats to say, vote for us and everything will be okay. We have a plan. Even if they fucking lie about it, even if they lie and they are going to get in office and not do a single thing. But they can't even bring themselves to say that. They can't even bring themselves to fucking lie, man. It's so disheartening. Ugh. It's actually insane. You're telling us how much of a shitty president Donald Trump is, and I agree with you 100%. But you can't lie and tell us you're gonna fight against it? This is why people are saying that you're not doing a good job. This is why when you did your 24-hour speech, or however long it was, people applauded you. It was a meaningless display of resistance against Donald Trump. And you can't even do that again. Like, just do another fucking 24-hour speech. How about that? How about the bare minimum?
It's outrageous for hospitals to have longer waits at the emergency room because people are going there to get their primary care. I go home every day, as I told you, or at least every week, to my community. And a lot of the things that I often talk about on podcasts like this, they don't give a damn about. They want to know what's going on with my rising costs, what's going on with my loss of healthcare, what's going on with the poisoning of my communities, because everybody wants to talk about them being an environmentalist, but nobody's talking about the toxic sites that are in communities like mine and community. What's going on with the fact that giving birth in this country is one of the most dangerous jobs you can have, especially for Black women. And so I hear you when I'm down here in the Beltway or get on podcasts, everybody wants to talk, well, you didn't vote 100% this way. Nobody asks me about that in communities that I'm fighting for in New Jersey. What they want to know is, what are we doing to make the American dream, that I can buy a home, that I can afford health care, that I can afford to pay the groceries or pay for childcare? What are you doing? I spoke to the Teamsters last week, packed room, pissed at the Democrats, pissed at the Republicans. By the end of the speech, I had them on their feet applauding because I was saying things that they're not used to Democrats talking about, which is screw all this stuff that talked about up here. What are you doing for me and my family to represent us? I want to get the Democratic Party back to the basics that makes people believe in us again. And first, it is getting rid of corruption. And corruption means that I know my politician isn't bought and paid for, that I know my politician isn't trading stocks.
You're paid for by AIPAC.
That I know my politicians aren't playing to somebody else's tune. Second is, what are you doing to make my life economically easier? Because 60% of this country can't afford America anymore, can't afford the American dream. Third, what are we doing for families? Because raising a kid in this country increases your chance of going below the poverty line by over
How do you have the nerve to say that your constituents don't want their politicians bought and paid for, while you admit you took like $800,000 from AIPAC? How are you going to do that, man? How are you going to do that to me? Like, he's acting indignant that they ask him about this, but he can't get away from the fact that he is being he is compromised on a very important issue for Democratic voters. Democratic voters care a lot about Israel and Palestine. You can say that cost Kamala Harris the election. Among other things, it was a big factor in the election for Kamala Harris. And he's like, oh yeah, well, my voters don't care about that, but they just want to make sure that their politicians aren't bought and paid for. And AIPAC's buying a lot of fucking politicians. Okay, I'm gonna fucking die. Drink. Okay. I'll play this in a second. Play
100% just by having a child, because that's how expensive it is. And again, healthcare, being able to have a child without dying. These are the basics our party wants. People don't want all the bells and whistles. They don't want all the bullshit political talks that we always get tripped up on. What are you doing for us? In the fight that we're in right now in Washington against Donald Trump, and you and I might agree on a lot of the things, threats to democracy, a lot of these things that we talk about. But when I go home, people are just so pissed off that they can't afford America anymore. And that's what we need to be talking about.
Listener, sometimes it's so difficult to get ahead in your
It is difficult to get ahead. I agree. Wait, socks. Socks? Those socks?
You cannot go wrong with Bombas. I love my...
Those look nice. Unethical Reacts.
ADDYI.com. Use coupon code HADIT for a $10 telemed appointment at addy.com.
Pivoting just a slight bit, I have been so profoundly disappointed with the leadership, like For example, your colleague Chuck Schumer, let's just take him because you're in the Senate. I feel like every single day, Democratic.
No, he has not answered what they're doing, what he's doing for the Democrats, because he doesn't have an answer. All he can be like is, oh, well, my constituency's hurting. Okay, so is everyone else, dude. What are you going to do about it? If all that being a politician means is saying your constituency's hurting, then I could fucking be a politician. I can say that, people are not having a good time in this Trump presidency. But you need to actually give us a political pathway forward to getting people out of that same type of hurt and anguish.
Leadership in the federal government should be out saying Donald Trump has dementia.
Whoa,
He's running around
boy.
calling it the Department of War when it is the
boy.
Department of Defense. He is lying about inflation. I mean, just every day he's demented. He should be impeached. He's lying. And I am not seeing that. I see sound bites a little bit here and there. And what can we do to break through to the Democratic leadership? We need every single day. And I understand talking about healthcare and women dying. We live in an abortion ban in America, or I do. And so I understand women are dying. Adversely impacted, even from that, is Black women. I have seen the research. I'm involved in an organization we're trying to bring that to the voters. But right now, like, we're fighting fascism. We're fighting military masked in the streets. So why do I feel so disappointed with the federal leadership when I see like Gavin Newsom and, the mayor of Boston, J.B. Pritzker? They're out there fighting every day. And I see a vacuum.
Okay, so I mean, again, I was raised in the civil rights tradition by parents that fought for it, and so these are the things I know. When I was home in January, I got cornered in the supermarket in Newark. One we brought into a food desert, and my folks know, and they get upset.
Damn.
Why aren't you Democrats doing this? And I tell them, well, we're not in the majority. We can't. Why aren't you doing it? Well, we can't call a hearing. And then after going back and forth, this guy who's known me since the 90s, and I had a beautiful afro, said to me, "Are you an American or Americant?" And then he says to me, he goes, "Where's the guy I voted for, who did a hunger strike for 10 days in the projects and made everybody in New Jersey pay attention and we solve problems? Where's the guy that moved into a mobile home and parked in the worst drug corners in our city?" He started marching through my career over 25 years and saying, this is the guy that I knew that made a way out of nowhere. Didn't wait for leaders, didn't wait for permission. That's why we went back. And I said to Hakeem Jeffries, we need to do an all-day sit-in on the Capitol steps that broke through, had over 100 million impressions. That's why I did 25 hours on the Senate floor, which was to break through. 340 million people liked it on TikTok. What I'm saying to you right now is that I've learned in my life, in all my battles, to end a corrupt machine in New Jersey, to turn around a city nobody said to be turned around, and even right now in this fight, that leadership is not a job, it's not a title or a position, it's action and example. And you say Chuck Schumer this, Chuck Schumer this. I'm telling you right now, most people in my state do not know who Chuck Schumer is.
Right.
They don't. They can't name him. They can't name Hakeem Jeffries. But I try to do things down here that are different, unusual, and that people know. I know my name ID in my state is pretty high. People know I'm fighting for them, and I'm finding creative ways to doing it. But that's not because I'm a senator. When my staff and I sat around and said, what do people know you for? What do they know? How do they know you about? How do they know what you're fighting every day to try to get done? It's really about where do you stand in a crisis. And so I hear you guys about Chuck Schumer this, Chuck Schumer this. I do not go back and prosecute a case on Chuck Schumer in New Jersey at all. I prosecute cases for my communities that are desperately hurting right now.
Dude, you just said, they're like, there's a power vacuum void in the Democratic leadership. And then they're like, isn't that an issue? And he's like, well, I understand that you care about Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, but my constituency don't even know who they are. They don't even know the name Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They've never heard of them before. Like, yeah, dude, that's the fucking point. Don't you think it's an issue that the leaders of the Democratic Party have zero name recognition among the actual Democrats? Oh my God, I got picked up immediately. You really you care a lot about Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, but actually, oh my fucking God, I drank the wrong potion. But actually, no one knows who they are. Yeah, maybe we should get a leader of the Democratic Party who people actually know the name of, the people can actually recognize. Oh my God, why would he say that? That's such a bad point.
I'm telling you right now, most people in my state do not know who Chuck Schumer is.
Right.
They don't. They can't name him. They can't name Hakeem Jeffries. But I try to do things down here that are different, unusual, and that people know. I know my name ID in my state is pretty high. People know I'm fighting for them, and I'm finding creative ways to doing it. But that's not because I'm a senator. When my staff and I sat around and said, what do people know you for? What do they know you? How do they know you about? How do they know what you're fighting every day to try to get done? It's really about where do you stand in a crisis. And so I hear you guys about Chuck Schumer this, Chuck Schumer this. I do not go back and prosecute a case on Chuck Schumer in New Jersey at all. I prosecute cases for my communities that are desperately hurting right now. And if I spent all my energy on who's a leader of the Senate, as opposed to just being a damn leader myself and finding ways to let my people know what the issues are and fighting for them.
Dude, it's a party.
I'm on 20 social media platforms.
Dude, Chuck, I mean, Corey, it's a party. It's not a random collection of individuals. You're supposed to be a group of people. You can't just be a leader yourself when the leader of your party is completely AWOL. That's the point, man. Maybe you should start litigating against Chuck Schumer if you want your party to succeed. How is this dude? The Republicans literally wrote a playbook. They pre-screened a bunch of employees and pre-hired them, so as soon as they got power, they had a list of ideologues ready to go, ready to completely convert the entirety of the federal government into a machine to support one person. That's Donald Trump. And the Democrats can't even criticize their leader, the leader of their party. They can't even criticize the leader of their party because they're like, I'm too focused on being a leader in my state, and no one in my state knows the name of the leader of our party. We are so cooked, boys. We are actually so cooked. Like, if this is the response we're getting almost 11 months into a Trump presidency, the response we're getting from a prominent Democrat is, well, no one even knows who the leader of the Democrat Party is, so why would I focus on the leader of the Democrat Party? I'm just going to focus on being a leader for myself. This just gives away that these Democrats don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know they have no plan to push back against anything Donald Trump is saying. It's every man for themselves right now. The Democratic Party is completely lost. Why? Why is it that whenever a liberal asks a Democratic politician, what are you going to do to fight against Donald Trump? They have no answer. It's because they actually don't fucking know. It's insane. We saw a playbook. Like, the Republicans laid out a playbook. You can just simply copy that and get, like, leftists or liberals ready to be hired and like, write out a bunch of laws so that as soon as you get power in Congress, you can push all of these things forward. What? There's nothing. And they want us to vote for them? It's these motherfuckers that want us to vote for them? That, who cares what the leadership of the Democrat Party is? I'm just focusing on being a leader for myself. No one even knows the name of the Democratic leader.
Wait for leaders, didn't wait for permission for what the fuck. That's why we went back. And I said to Hakeem Jeffries, we need to do an all-day sit-in on the Capitol steps that broke through, had over 100 million impressions. That's why I did 25 hours on the Senate floor, which was to break through. 340 million people liked it on TikTok. What I'm saying to you right now is that I've learned in my life, in all my battles, to end a corrupt machine in New Jersey, to turn around a city nobody said to be turned around, and even right now in this fight, that leadership is not a job, it's not a title or a position, it's action and example. And you say Chuck Schumer this, Chuck Schumer this. I'm telling you right now, most people in my state do not know who Chuck Schumer is.
Right.
They don't. They can't name him. They can't name Hakeem Jeffries. But I try to do things down here that are different, unusual, and that people know. I know my name ID in my state is pretty high. People know I'm fighting for them, and I'm finding creative ways to doing it. But that's not because I'm a senator. When my staff and I sat around and said, what do people know you for? What do they know you? How do they know you about? How do they know what you're fighting every day to try to get done? It's really about where do you stand in a crisis. And so I hear you guys.
Other than meeting with Netanyahu, he hasn't given us a single example of how he's actually fighting. The only example of something that he actually did was meet with Netanyahu and ask him nicely to stop the genocide of Palestinians. That's the only thing that he's actually said.
About Chuck Schumer this, Chuck Schumer this. I do not go back and prosecute a case on Chuck Schumer in New Jersey at all. I prosecute cases for my communities that are desperately hurting right now. And if I spent all my energy on who's a leader of the Senate, as opposed to just being a damn leader myself and finding ways to let my people know what the issues are and fighting for them. Let me be blunt with you. I'm on 20 social media platforms. Just pick one. Instagram last time, 50 million views just this last month on the content that we put out there. Most of them are people that follow me in the New Jersey area because we want people to know what we're about and what we're fighting for. And we find crazy creative ways to break through and let people know. We've championed the issues you're talking about. I've led in the Senate and got a lot done on expanding Medicaid and dealing with the maternal mortality crisis. I'm the one that called Biden up and got all the lead pipes in the ground, the funding for those things pulled out.
Biden's not president anymore. People want to know what you're going to do now. Oh, I called Joe Biden the Democratic president, and I got a good thing passed. I got a good thing added to the Medicare bill. Okay, good job. What are you going to do now? Are you going to call up Donald Trump and get him to add something to the bill? Are you going to like call him up and be like, hey, I'll vote to reopen the government if you add this to the healthcare bill? No, he's like, if he's going to do that, he hasn't said it yet.
Receipts I'm able to bring back to my communities of real things that we can point to is why I'm here in the Senate. And so I understand the politics, but people aren't concerned about politics. They're concerned about, are you making progress for my community? And that's what this fight is about. We have the leverage right now. We are standing in the right. We are right on the pain point of Americans. And if we do not fight here and fight now, you all know this, that the tsunami that's coming, the 2026 Medicaid changes, the 2026 ACA, this is stuff I don't say.
Yeah, and that's a good point. He is like disrespecting his constituency. He's basically like, my constituency is just a mass of low IQ rabble. They don't know the leader of the Democratic Party. I'm going to pretend like that's completely irrelevant for them. And I'm just going to say that all they care about are their base instincts. They have no concept of higher politics of how to get things done. Really? That's the tact you're taking? People don't care about how to get things done. They just care that they're suffering right now. I think they also care about how to get things done. That's why you're talking to two liberals who are not politicians. They're just moms that took an interest in politics because they don't like seeing what's happening with Donald Trump, and you're getting your feet held to the fire by them. You're actually getting completely roasted by them.
The ACA premiums and subsidies, that's all gobbledygook to most Americans. But we know that if we don't do something come January next year, and then
dude, literally, as soon as I play it, he's like, ACA premiums and subsidies and premiums. Insurance premiums and government subsidies is gobbledygook for most Americans. Bro, just like don't infantilize your voters. Maybe that's a good strategy. Am I expecting too much?
At the end of next year, between the Medicaid and the ACA, it will be a healthcare disaster like this country has never seen, affecting everyone. Because if you don't get your healthcare through the ACA or through Medicaid, and you go to the emergency room when you have a disaster, and now suddenly the emergency room lines are so much longer, everybody is going to be affected. And so I live in urgencies. I'm not trying to pass somebody's period. I am who I am. This is where I stand. I could do no other. I'm raised to stand in my own integrity and to fight in ways that I want to show my constituents nobody's willing to go to the mat as much as I am, whether it's not going to the bathroom for freaking 25 hours.
I keep dodging right into the crotch of the bear, and I've gotten killed by his dick like probably 20 times now. It is so disheartening. Because you don't think that like the crotch of the bear I'm like trying to dodge underneath it, and I'm just dodging right into its giant furry testicles, and they're killing me. It's the worst. I'm getting teabagged by a bear to death for 2 days straight. That's been my Elden Ring experience. Never gonna look at Winnie the Pooh the same after this.
Which is hard, or whether it's delivering on things that are not sexy. But when we were able to significantly increase the funding for sickle cell anemia, which is talk about racism, which was a disease that affected more people, but they got less funding than other diseases. People in my community and happened to be all across America said, "Thank God." That's what I'm fighting for. Am I making somebody's life better? And I will stand with you on real corruption, whether it's at the Supreme Court or the crypto president that we have, or even my colleagues in the Democratic Party that still think they have to take money from PepsiCo or whatever corporation you want to do, like Apple. We have work to do. And in this moment, I want to unify people. The three of us, 90% we agree on. Let's put the 10% aside.
I agree.
I would actually say 98 because I listen to you guys and I cheer you in the mornings when I do. 98% of the stuff we agree on. Let's unify, because I know from the old African saying that sticks in a bundle can't be broken. Spider webs united can tie up a lion. We need that kind of strength right now more than ever, because what's at the stake is when I go home to Newark and people are losing their health care and get their health care in hospital emergency rooms or their prenatal care at the time that they're giving birth.
Senator, the bill that you passed for the, I think it was cocaine crack disparity. My husband's a criminal defense lawyer, and he said it's changed. I mean, it's changed so many of his clients' lives. So, and I know that you do really good work. You bring up a really good
data point on that. It immediately, over time, it's been thousands more, but immediately got 2,000 people out of prison. 98% of them were black and brown. And most people, I'm sorry, they don't understand that we still live in a country where forget me, because I'm a privileged African-American man, but the average black guy has a 4 times more likely chance of getting arrested for marijuana usage. Still today, there are thousands of marijuana arrests than somebody that's white, and there's no difference in it. We live in this savagely broken criminal justice system that is targeting the most vulnerable people, the people that are addicted that need healthcare and not prison, the people who are mentally ill who need healthcare and not prison. It is so savagely unfair, and I'm grateful for your family talking about it.
I think you bring up a really good point that we need to discuss as a party. And you bring up the kind of the leftist wing of the party, and then you on boots on the ground governing. And I agree with you to an extent that sometimes far, far left, it can be, they put you through the meat grinder. They put us through the meat grinder. Last Monday, we were the moderators for Kamala Harris's book tour in Los Angeles. Okay. And all the leftists were super mad at us. And when we first started the podcast, all of the conservative women were mad at us because we were liberal. And so I certainly understand that sometimes you feel like you can't, it's like, well, they're pissed at me. They're pissed at me. And I imagine if you're a U.S. Senator, everybody's pissed at you. But I will say, now that we've been doing this for 3 years, I do think that the United States, and particularly the Democratic Party, we have to be leaders on this issue with Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu. It's something that there is a big, loud beat in the base that's permeating all across the country. When you have people in Oklahoma that have never been political before start to talk about it. And here's what I'm scared about. And I've been talking to other politicians that have come on the pod about this. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is an anti-Semite. She is a real Jew hater to the core. And she is starting to message now. MAGA is not America first, where they've been Israel first. And for rural people and suburban people, when they hear that messaging, it allows a grifter and an opportunist like Marjorie Taylor Greene, for people that don't follow the 24-hour news cycle, to say, yeah, why do they have free healthcare and we don't? Why are we sending them all of these bombs and they're killing kids and we don't? I think in order for us to come together as a party in 2026, it's going to take leadership saying things like Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal. We have to stop funding the war. And we've evolved on the issue. And I think it's okay. I think we're all at a place right now where we can accept that we have the leaders that we have. And I agree with you that we agree on 98 out of 100 things. And if we agreed 100 out of 100, we'd be in a cult, would be MAGA. And we're not that. We're always going to disagree on things. And I genuinely hear you when you say people don't know who Chuck Schumer is. You're exactly right. So many Americans do not know who that is at all. We all do, obviously. And I think the economic messaging, but I do think that if the Democrats leave this vacuum there, it's going to get filled by the people in MAGA that are seeing a post-Trump America. And it's super easy messaging with the America First thing. It's just something I want you to think about, because I think it's a political liability for our party right now.
They're calling me for a vote. Let me just say this. So first of all, why aren't people talking about when Obama was using American jets to refuel Saudi planes that were dropping bombs on Yemenis children? Why weren't we yelling and screaming that? I spoke out against it.
But it was bad, but we have to talk about current.
Please let me finish. They're going to pull me away.
Okay.
Why? And again, I've been fighting for more funding for from the Horn of Africa to the Congo to Sudan. Why can't we get people to care in this country enough?
I mean, this is just so disgusting, right? An active genocide is going on. What he's doing right now, that's cover for the genocide. He doesn't have any real answers for it. So he just is like, well, people didn't care for other things, so why are they caring for this? What, is he going to say that it's because they're anti-Semitic? That's a classic Zionist line, right? Oh, shit. Okay, stab you in the fucking head. No, I missed it. I missed the crit hit. Okay, let's go.
Top podcasts are saying it's wrong that we are implicated in so many things, people dying on the continent of Africa. Why Haiti? Why can't I get top mainstream media people to give a damn about the atrocities there? The International Criminal Court singles out Israel, but not Iran, not Syria, not other folks. I don't understand.
They literally did
on the ending of the nightmare
war
and the
crime for
ceasefire.
Hamas.
I'm with you on criticizing the Netanyahu administration, which I think is worse than the Trump administration. But as a guy who is focusing so much of my effort on ending human suffering on the planet Earth, on the biggest humanitarian nightmares, I can't get people with powerful platforms to speak even once about the nightmares that are going on. It drives me nuts. And it makes me feel like I felt when I was representing Newark, New Jersey, to get people in our country to care enough. Why do I stand out and support people that you and others criticize me for voting for? Because I will never forget when nobody cared about mass incarceration of Black and brown people who stood up for them. Why am I get so angry sometimes about my own party, who seems to be distracted by issues that don't matter, and not to the core of people who cannot afford to pay rent and buy groceries? That's why I've chosen to live where I live. Because every day when I come home, I get snapped back to reality. To people who want me to focus on.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Bro, I'm never killing one of those bears again. But I got beast blood. That's cool. Bro, oh my God. My heart is pounding in my chest. Oh, fuck. Okay. like, I want to say something, but I won't say it. Ooh, okay. No, I need a cigarette after that. My feet are fucking sweaty now. I gotta take the sweater off. I'm like, I'm schwitzing. Oh. Okay. All right, take it away, Corey. Tell me how anti-Semitic it is to be concerned about the people of Gaza.
What matters to them. And so I hear you about what the causes are that are most making headlines. But my entire career, I've cared about the issues that aren't the popular issues, but are the ones that are affecting the most people that are often forgot about or marginalized. And that's what I want to say with urgency. So you and I are going to agree on the big...
Dude, once again, like Yemen, Biden bombed Yemen. Trump is bombing Yemen. Did you speak out about Yemen? Are we talking about like Saudi Arabia too now? And like Rwanda and the Congo? We're talking about these conflicts? Yeah, they're bad. Was the United States in charge of facilitating the genocide of these things that are happening? Because we know we fucking bombed Yemen, and we've been whitewashing Saudi Arabia, which has been the arbiter of a genocide in Yemen. That's pretty fucking bad too. So good. I'm glad you called it out. But you can't call Netanyahu a war criminal. You can't call what he's doing in Gaza a genocide. And you can't actually offer any real solutions to what's happening in Gaza other than saying, oh, well, I gave Netanyahu a good talking to, and I think he really understood where I was coming from. Like, dude, this is a fucking joke. You're literally being paid by a political action committee whose goal it is to further further the cause of Israel. And you're like, why does everyone care about Israel? Because the United States is doing a genocide on their behalf, or like they're allowing Israel to do the genocide. What? Yeah, it's not complicated.
Ticket items. But I want to come back on this show. I beg of you. And I'll send them to you beforehand. 3 things that we should be talking about that we're not talking about that are affecting millions of either Americans or hundreds of millions of people or tens of millions of people on the planet Earth.
Senator, I want to thank you so much for coming on this podcast, because this is the difference between the left and the right. You come on here, we have conversations, we grow, we learn from each other, and it's not like Fox News or the right wings. We disagree and we embrace the disagreement to make a better country. And thank you so much for coming on. We respect all of the work you do, and we're here to fight this fight with you and find compromise and unity where we can.
We are unified, the 3 of us, and you all are voices that, again, the tradition of Black radio in America, you all know this. It was people like you all that have platforms that would entertain people, that would inform people, that would engage people, but most of all, would help to heal the hurt, to inspire people to act even when they were starting to feel despair. I believe that hope is the active conviction that despair will never have the last word. And you all are speaking up again and again and again, trying to make sure people know that as dark as things are, as challenging as things are, we still have fight, we still have strength, and we still, like my parents said when they marched, we still believe that we shall overcome.
Senator, good luck. Thank you. And please come back on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, here's my thing. Okay. They just cannot criticize Israel. There's really something to that. I mean, it's kind of wild when you're in it, that the deflection, what he deflected to Obama.
That's completely accurate. They can just not criticize Israel.
He deflected to other places. It's interesting that he can't just stay in that. I mean, there's a little...
It looks like they just kind of shut down. They're like, okay, if we push him any further, he's not going to come back on. We might lose other Democrats that would come on, and he's not going to change his position on this shit.
But it's kind of the deflection involved in not just staying on that subject was wild to me.
Well, I mean, because saying, he didn't say he's a war criminal. He said, I disagree with him. I think he's worse than Trump. So it's like...
Well, just when I brought it up again, he said, nobody's talking about Obama. And it's like, motherfucker hasn't been president in 10 years. And I remember people calling Obama a war criminal. I remember it. He was the drone president. He dropped drones and killed civilians. And I distinctly remember it. And he's right. There's a lot of criticism to be made and an accusation that could be made that Obama was a war criminal. It's interesting that he couldn't call Benjamin Netanyahu a war criminal. He's so good on so many subjects. Truly, like when he made the message about nobody knows who Chuck Schumer is. Brilliant. Excellent. The civil rights stuff, the healthcare issues affecting Black women so much more than it does. That's why I think with Corey, with Senator Booker, it hurts me the most because I like him. The stuff that I agree with him on, I really agree. And I think he's an effective, compassionate communicator. When it gets to, it's kind of like the whole Israel thing. It's like, once you open your eyes up to it, and my light just went out. Sorry, guys. Once you open up your eyes to it, it's difficult to
unsee it.
Yeah, it's difficult to unsee it. And we're going to have a disco, you guys. But, but anyway, here's the thing. He has a good point that we have to focus on what we agree upon. But I'm trying to tell these certain politicians, you're creating a huge vacuum. The Israel thing is a huge issue right now. We have funded that country. And I want to be crystal clear that I love, support, and respect Jewish people. And I see the criticism of Israel and their leader and their government the same way that I hope that Europeans and other first world countries criticize the United States right now. If people that don't live in this country who aren't American only say, oh, that's great. It's so great that they have Trump. It's so great that they're doing away with democracy. That doesn't help me. So it's not anti-Semitic to speak out against a war criminal that is making Jews less safe worldwide. Annihilating Palestinians. And I just wish that the Democratic leadership, I mean, like if Corey could just go a notch more on this, because I don't think he has any idea what a sticking point this is, how much bigger this issue has become since Kamala's election.
And I completely agree with him on everyday people, like the people we were talking about in the beginning, driving in their car. They're more worried about, why can't my child get a job? Why can't I understand that. But just on a macro level, it is so important that we have a line in the sand. Like, we will not support this, full stop. We will not. It's
a layup to say Netanyahu is a war criminal. It's just, there's no question he's a war criminal. He is, even Israeli human rights groups say it's a genocide. I mean, it's not, some people in Benjamin Netanyahu's government are talking about the real estate development. Yes. And not even to mention that Benjamin Netanyahu funded Hamas so that he could stay in power.
Yes. Right. It's like a Trump situation. He was going to lose his.
But here's the thing.
And also is now funding other terrorist groups within Gaza in order to maintain power and maintain the destabilized status of Hamas. That's what he's doing now. So yeah, he's definitely a war criminal, and any Democrat that can't say that is a Democrat that is not worth voting for.
I want to say about Corey that I think is important. It's a big difference that he came on here because he knows we're critical of him, and he came on here. So the far leftist listeners, we can't just rip up the politicians that we have and discard them, because we have him. He is a major senator. He's going to have more and more terms. So when
I totally agree with them. I think that them interviewing people like Hakeem Jeffries, Cory Booker, who else was on their podcast recently? I mean, they interviewed Zoran, they interviewed Hassan. I think it's totally fair for them to be like, instead of keep pushing him on that, just be like, okay, I guess that's all we're going to get from you. Good thing I maxed out my faith. Oh my God. Okay, not a good thing. I died.
Come to places and openly communicate with us, then we have to have our disagreements. And then I will invite him back on, because it's going to take a big tent to overcome this. And he answered the questions. I mean, I wish he would cut the crap and tell us, why he won't call him a war criminal, but maybe he'll get there. Right, Pumps?
Right. I just want to say this. When he said they're calling me for a vote, I wanted to say, the government shut down. But you know what? I respect it, because we gave him, he said, you can have this much time, and we went over. I'm all in on it. But yeah, I just thought that was funny that the government.
I know. But he's a very likable person, but I see what the far leftists, I see what they see now.
Sure.
That there are certain politicians who are seduced, beholden, completely, I don't know if they're propagandized themselves or being paid off or what the deal is, but there is a lack of moral clarity and a lot of deflection. The fact that he was bringing up Obama, which is a very valid thing, but we weren't talking about Obama. We're talking about currently right now, Benjamin Netanyahu bombing the shit out of everybody all the time. Like, that's who we're talking about.
And we're paying for it.
And then he said the ICC just to single him out. And I'm just like, that's kind of Israeli propaganda right there.
I will definitely have him back on to talk about the things that we're not talking about, the human rights, atrocities. I think that's important.
It is important, but his point in doing that.
He's not going to come back on for that. You have to wait until he releases a book, or he pants his Donald Trump on the Capitol steps. Yeah, you have to wait for that shit. But he's not going to come back on if you're like, let's talk about the atrocities that Israel's committing in Gaza right now. That is going to be a no-go for old Cory Booker. But I appreciate them, pushing him on this. Ooh, critical hit. Okay, boys. There's a giant skeleton ghost, or giant, literal, just giant ghost behind you. You don't want to attack him? Okay.
That is to talk about Israel. Yeah. Right. That's the 100% point. I will have him back on, but each and every time I will continue to talk about the billions and billions and billions of dollars that hardworking Americans pay in their taxes that go to kill Palestinians. And that needs to be spoken about all of the time, because there's a direct link of bipartisanship support for that. Right. And Israelis have free healthcare, and I'm glad they do. I'm glad they live in a country where they have free healthcare. I'm glad that they have free higher education. I don't besmirch that. But there's a problem when I drive through these rural Oklahoman towns and I see the way these people live, and they have all these Trump flags and they're paying taxes and all of this stuff. And I don't think they realize what's happening. I don't think they realize.
I mean, also, if America
Israeli
was,
government is and how corrupt our government
if
is
America was a utopia, like a socialist utopia, we should still criticize giving money to an ethno-state, even if it wasn't doing genocide. Ethno-states are a no-no, in my opinion. But yeah, we always have to criticize it from like our tax dollars are going to Israel, and that's the issue. Okay, so we covered that. I want to cover this because also the Breakfast Club has a pretty good anti-Zionist track record. So we'll take a look with Josh Shapiro, who, his house was firebombed and experienced right-wing violence. Let's see if he'll bring that up on this.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, just hilarious.
I've never seen this podcast before. Let's go a little bit faster.
Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
That's right. I call him Barack Obama.
Barack Obama. Ladies and gentlemen.
Is it too, come on.
Giant helmet. Right in front of him. We have the governor of Pennsylvania, Governor Josh Shapiro.
Is that Saquon's old helmet? Because he's over on the birds now.
You know what it is? It's signed by Saquon too. So let me put it back.
The fact that you recognize
Thank you for Saquon.
That's crazy.
Come on.
Well, good morning. How you feeling?
Hey, I'm feeling great. Thanks for having me back. It's good to be with you guys.
Good seeing you again.
You asked me how my
There a
family was
hell
before,
no?
I want to ask you how your family is now, because I saw this week that Cody Balmer, who was accused of an arson attack on your house, he pled guilty and was sentenced to 25 to 50 years. How does that make you and the family feel?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest. It's been hard dealing with this as a governor, right? Knowing that you're a target, knowing that in this world of politics we're in today, you got people who want to.
It was accused of. You asked me how my family was before the interview. I want to ask you how your family is now, because I saw this week that Cody Balmer, who was accused of an arson attack on your house, he pled guilty and was sentenced to 25 to 50 years. How does that make you and the family feel?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll be honest. It's been hard.
Oh, the guy who attacked his house pled guilty. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's like his house was attacked. That's not great. Then it's kind of, I guess, bring it up, but like to act like it's traumatic to hear the guy plead guilty is kind of interesting.
Dealing with this as a governor, right? Knowing that you're a target, knowing that in this world of politics we're in today, you got people who want to do you harm. And I'm sure we'll talk about political violence. We're seeing way too much of that across the country. But the hardest part of this whole thing for me has been knowing that the job I love, right, being governor of Pennsylvania, serving the good people of Pennsylvania, put my family's lives at risk. I mean, this guy, Charlamagne, like he came in with Molotov cocktails. He firebombed our home.
How do you get so close? How did he get in?
I'll answer in a sec, but I just want to be clear. He was wielding a metal hammer that he said he was going to use to try to kill me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he not only pled guilty to arson, he pled guilty to attempted murder.
Damn.
And so I think the thing for me that I'm just being really honest, and I'm.
Yeah, dude, I think when you firebomb someone's house, that's already attempted murder. The guy's like, damn, really? Attempted murder? That's crazy. Wow, I just got nuked right there.
Working through is how to keep my family safe, doing the job I love, that, by the way, I feel real purpose in, right? Serving people. And the notion that people now need to choose between their family's safety and well-being and doing public service, that's a hard thing for me to work through, just as a dad,
The guy has schizophrenia. I don't know. I have not been following the details of the guy who tried to firebomb Josh Shapiro's house. I'm assuming he's a conservative that attacked him. So, like, once again, dude, you are literally a victim of political violence. This would be a great opportunity to dispel the narrative that the majority of political violence is coming from the left right now, right? You are a Democrat whose house was set on fire because of your political affiliation. Maybe make that case instead of just being like, violence is bad right now.
Beyond being a governor. But look, I mean, to your point, or to your question, sorry, there were tremendous failures from a security standpoint. Pennsylvania State Police, who I do have confidence in, have changed a whole bunch of procedures. The home, which really hadn't been, this was the governor's residence, really hadn't had any kind of overhaul from a security perspective for decades, has gone through that. I do feel safe there now. I do feel safe when I'm going around. I worry about my family, obviously, all the time, but it was a failure, and they learned from it, and I've got confidence that they're going to do better if God forbid, something like that happens another time.
You got to tell me how you have that kind of confidence.
Yeah, how do you feel safe now?
Because how do you know it wasn't an inside job? How do you know, you really don't know who's who nowadays.
Pretty close. It wasn't like they threw it from the street. Like they got
he kicked down doors in your house, but just wasn't successful to get through those doors. And it was 15 people in your house.
Yeah. Oh, there were about 20. We had me and my family. There's 6 of us.
Yeah.
Our 2 dogs, and then we also had my brother, sister, and their kids, so my nieces and nephews. Yeah, it was scary. I mean, knowing that there's a fire and you've got these brave firefighters rushing in to put out the fire, as they're ushering you out. I mean, it's scary. Look, there are some things that they have done that are going to make what happened there impossible again. They built a wall around the residence. We really didn't have something like that. There's now a dedicated crew of state troopers to patrolling the grounds. We didn't have that before. There's all kinds of new technology. I'm not going to get into it here. That is, going to make us safe, and they've taken steps.
Tell us the new codes that you put on your house. That's going to be great podcasting. And great podcasting content. What new security you put in fireproof walls? Is that what you did?
As well. Look, I think you gotta, in this job, you gotta have faith in the people around you to keep you safe. Otherwise, you become paralyzed by fear. And I'm unwilling to be a victim the rest of my life. I'm unwilling to be paralyzed by fear, and I'm not going to be deterred in doing this work. I'm not going to be deterred in practicing my faith. I'm not going to be deterred in being who I am. I'm not going to be deterred in just being able to go outside and catch with my kids. You can't live in fear, and that is kind of how I've worked through this, and my family and I worked through this, so that we can go forward and do this job we love and try and do it in a safe way.
You do believe that building a wall is a proper way to keep what you're saying?
Man, I've always been for securing our border, if that's where you're going. Yeah.
I was asking, so what startled him? That was my question, because he was in the house.
Are you fucking kidding me, dude? I am so happy that I have not been paying any attention to Josh Shapiro. That's his comment. I've always been in favor of securing our border. When the guy makes a joke about building a wall, he's like, oh yeah, so you think building a wall is a good way to keep people out? And he's like, yeah, I'm in favor of a border wall. Oh my God. Dude, the Democrat Party is so cooked. This is what we've become now. Being like, yeah, we're in favor of border walls. This is sick. I love border walls. Don't beat up my skeleton. All right, come on, boy. Let's go. Come on, Bones.
He had a hammer. What made him flee? What made him run?
So, I don't know if you saw the video, but he used this metal hammer to break a window, to throw the Molotov cocktail, which ignited the explosion. Then he went to another window, used the metal hammer to break a window so he could climb in. What's really scary, which I don't think folks understood when they looked at the video, is he then tried to kick down a set of doors that literally lead to our private living quarters. That's where we all were. So he was a door away. While that was going on, we've later learned this. The state police opted not to go after him, but to get us out and get us to safety, which was the right thing to do. And so we were able to be safe and secure while he was able to get away.
And I saw you say that you've had an enormous guilt about that, based off what you just said, earlier about being a public servant, being a governor, but just still being a father.
Dude, what's with the handheld camera in this podcast? It's really throwing me for a loop.
Is it worth it?
I think it is, Charlemagne. And I mean, it's a tough question you're asking me, right? Is it worth putting your kids' lives at risk, right? I mean, that's a hard thing to ask, to answer. I think I love public service. I'm not trying to sound corny, but I really feel like I get to make a difference every day. And I'm sure we'll talk about some issues. I think we are making a difference. And so I want to help other people. And obviously the most important thing is keeping my family safe. I think if you can have confidence in the people who are keeping you safe, you can't walk away now with everything that's on the line, with all the challenges we face as a country, with my responsibility to frankly push back on what we're seeing in Washington, protect our freedoms in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now's not the time to walk away. So I think we're in a good place from a safety perspective. I am mentally strong and prepared to continue on with this work, knowing that my family is being cared for and protected, and this is not a time to quit. So yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it to put yourself out there and try and do good for others.
I saw you say that the conversations with your kids have been hard, right? Because of all of this. Have your kids asked you to not do this job anymore after everything?
I want to be respectful to my kids' privacy, but I'll tell you what it was like in the days after and kind of where we are today. We're blessed with 4 kids, 23, 20, 16, 14. And what was really interesting to Lori and I, and 23 is a daughter and then the rest are boys, they each asked different kinds of questions. Yeah. And they asked them in a different way. And, sometimes they were concerned about my well-being. Sometimes they were understandably concerned about their own well-being. My 14-year-old asked a lot of questions that were super factual. How did he get here? How did he do that? What was he doing? What does the video look like?
Really
Stuff like that. And I remember early on in this, I just answered everything I knew. I told him everything I knew with as much granularity as I had. I remember my wife said to me, are we doing this? Like, is this what we're supposed to do? Are we supposed to tell our kids this? And I was like, I think so. I mean, there's no playbook for this. And so we were just brutally honest with our kids about both the facts of what happened and then the emotional questions that they asked. And I think that helped them get through it too. My kids haven't asked me to quit. My kids haven't asked me, the real question you asked me before.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead.
Afford things anymore. It's getting very difficult out there. They can't afford rent. They can't afford to go to school. They're taking extra jobs. So what are you telling, especially the governor of Pennsylvania, what are you telling people in Pennsylvania about that, or how are you helping?
Yeah,
if any.
So we were just having a conversation about this. I was in Lebanon County, Pennsylvania, on a farm yesterday. By the way, announcing that Pennsylvania has now protected more farmland than any other state in the entire country. I'm sure not super interesting to the Breakfast Club listeners, but a really important thing for Pennsylvania. Why do I bring that up? Because I was asked, hey, what's going on? Like, what's on the minds of farmers and people you meet here in rural Pennsylvania? And in many ways, it's the same thing that's on the mind of people in urban Pennsylvania, in Philly or Pittsburgh or something like that. Affordability. For farmers, affordability is a problem because of the president's tariffs. I mean, that is the dumbest policy. It has caused prices to rise. It has shut down markets for farmers. It has shut down markets for Pennsylvania manufacturers. And you go to the grocery store, things cost more. You order something on Amazon. Now they got rid of that so-called de minimis rule. Everything you're buying costs more. And everything costs more because Donald Trump pushed a button and started a tariff war, a trade war with our allies, with Canada, with countries that we do business with to the benefit of Americans. I'm not saying that some targeted tariff here or there, protect the steel industry or something like that, isn't helpful, but these blanket tariffs that he pulls out of his ass and doesn't really have a number that makes a whole lot of sense is having a singular effect in my state and across the country, and that is to make everything cost more, whether you're running a business, whether you're operating a farm, or whether you're just trying to buy your groceries. What am I doing about it in Pennsylvania? In the face of the federal government working against us, I've cut taxes 6 times in our Commonwealth. I've cut taxes for seniors, cut taxes for small businesses multiple times. I've cut taxes for families who are trying to afford childcare. We tripled what we call our childcare tax rate.
Cutting taxes.
In addition to that, we're investing more in housing to try and bring down the cost of housing. We've developed more affordable housing. Great Eagle, Shady McCoy and I actually just worked together on a big housing project in the Harrisburg area, which is now built and open. So we got a lot more work to do on that front, but that's certainly important. I mean, we are doing everything we can to reduce costs for people, to try and bring down the cost of things. And Donald Trump is just working against us every single day. And these tariffs are Exhibit A.
Whose fault is the government shutdown? And does it matter? Because right now the polls are saying that most
doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. Also, wait, you're saying that essentially people are getting taxed too much by Donald Trump, and your answer to that is you're cutting taxes? I mean, okay. Okay, I mean, I guess it's more effective than what the fucking people in Congress are doing, right? At least you can actually make some kind of effect on your constituents' lives. Oh, my skeleton died.
They're starting to blame Democrats.
Yeah. Look, I don't know about the polls, and I'm not a political pundit. Here's what I know. I have to deal with the real effects of it every day as a governor of Pennsylvania. By the way, as do other governors, right? So I've got a workforce of about 80,000 people who work for me in the state. Roughly 10,000 of them work for the state, but they're funded by the feds to support our veterans, provide health care, you name it. They're not getting paid right now, right? And if I pay them in lieu of the federal government paying them, that's a budget hit to me. I got veterans. We're one of the top states for number of veterans, about 800,000 veterans in our state who aren't getting the benefits that they need. I got kids with unique, health challenges who aren't getting the services they need because the federal government is shut down. Look, the Republicans control everything in D.C. They control the Senate, they control the House, they control the presidency. Because of the unique rules that they have, they need whatever it is, 7 or 8 Democratic votes in the U.S. Senate. Why the hell should the Democrats give up their vote for nothing? They've said we want one thing. We want to make sure healthcare is more affordable. We want these so-called Obamacare subsidies extended, because when they go away at the end of this year, you want to talk about cost envy? Your healthcare costs are going to spike because of it. And so Democrats rightfully said in the Senate, you want our 7 votes? You got to give us what we need on healthcare, which, by the way, makes a lot of sense. You got to use the leverage when you have it. So I'm kind of less focused on who's to blame and more focused on 2 things. 1, managing our state through this. And number 2, hopefully...
Your government shutdown is extremely unpopular. Why are you not campaigning right now? Why are you not saying the Republicans are to blame? The Republicans control everything, and your line is, I'm not focused on who's to blame for this? The Republicans control everything. They refuse to even negotiate with the Democrats. Not they can't come to an agreement with the Democrats. They refuse to talk with the Democrats in Congress. And your line is, I'm not here to assign blame. I'm not a political pundit. Maybe you should be. Maybe you could be a little harder on the Republicans. Oh, there's a lot of political violence going around on both sides, guys. On both sides. I'm not here to assign blame for the government shutdown, but, it's not a good thing. Maybe the Democrats should just, sure, they want one thing. That's all they want. Can't they just give up the one thing? Just be more firm. Be more assertive.
Seeing the Democrats be successful in the U.S. Senate in driving home a conclusion that's going to result in better health care for Americans.
From a strategy perspective, do you think
I know. Lowering taxes, that is a conservative policy, of course. It's not like, oh yeah, we're focused on affordability by bringing services up for everyone, and we're going to, tariffs are a regressive tax, and so the answer is to do a progressive tax. Right? That seems like what the smart thing would be to do. That seems like what the equitable thing would be. But no, he's like, we're just going to lower taxes for everyone, which I'm sure a lot of his rich donors appreciate. But yeah, dude, the fact that he fumbled the government shutdown question is kind of shocking. How do you fumble that, dude? Even Chuck Schumer is placing the blame squarely on the Republicans. The guy who folded on the government shutdown in May, he completely folded on it. But now he's smartened up and he put the blame squarely on the Republicans. You can't do that. You can't go on the Breakfast Club and say that the government shutdown is the fault of the Republicans. They refused to negotiate with the Democrats. You can't fucking say that, dude. What the fuck?
Let the Republicans have their way. Let them drive up healthcare. So that's the one issue we can point to and say, this is Republicans' fault, as opposed to now, the water's being so muddy because the government is shut down and so many other people aren't getting paid. So now they're starting to blame Democrats.
I'm less focused in my day-to-day life of letting something bad happen so I can point a finger at somebody else than actually solving the damn problem and then go take credit for it. I mean, obviously you're in the business of getting stuff done, and then you got to go tell the voters what you did.
You're in the business of politics. You need to point out when the Republicans do something shitty. I don't like to point out the flaws of my political opponents. Are you kidding? Dude, what the fuck is going on with these Democrats? At least Cory Booker was like, oh yeah, the Republicans suck. At least he said that. Not this fucking shit of, I don't like to point out when my political opponents did something unpopular because I'm not like a negative guy in general. Bro, chill with the knife work, bro. All right.
I hope that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are successful here. And then rather than try and prove that the bad thing that happened was the Republicans' fault, go and take credit for doing something good for the American people and helping them, get their health care. I will tell you, this fight is playing out at a really critical time when it comes to health care. If I can get maybe just a little parochial, though, you can extrapolate this out to every other state. My state, 13 million people, big state. As a result of Trump and the Republicans passing what they call the beautiful bill, which, silly name, but just follow me on this. 510,000 Pennsylvanians are about to lose health care coverage, about to lose Medicaid. And 140,000 more Pennsylvanians are losing food assistance. That actually started back in September, right? So
that's SNAP and WIC and stuff.
Exact SNAP, yeah. So we got this moment right now where I've got 600,000+ Pennsylvanians who are either losing health care or food assistance. And then at the end of this year, I got over 1 million who rely on these subsidies to afford Obamacare. And by the way, these are people working. Right. They're doing what we want them to do. And we're giving them a little bit of extra help so they can afford health care for them and their families. That goes away. So we're facing a dire situation of Donald Trump's making, where I've got about 1.5 million people who in some form or fashion are going to lose health care, be kicked off of it, or lose food assistance. This is a real problem. And by the way, the states can't make that up. We can't backfill that. I can't speak for every governor, but I don't think any state's budget can backfill the billions of dollars in healthcare and food assistance that they're cutting. So the fact remains, if these senators want to go fight to protect healthcare, I'm all in for that. They should use their leverage to be able to do that.
Is that why in Pennsylvania right now there's such a back and forth about you guys' budget and trying to figure out what can be improved and what can't because of the trickle?
Dude, you can't say that Republicans are trying to take away people's healthcare and I'm going to do a good thing and then brag about doing a good thing while simultaneously also being like, Oh yeah, but I don't want to criticize my political opponents. Well, how can you say they're taking away healthcare without criticizing them? You can't do you're not in a vacuum, bro. The good thing you're doing is stopping a bad thing from happening. You need to tell people about the bad thing. I've never heard such a poor description of how to do a poor idea on how to do politics. Your idea on how to do politics is just do things and not actually like do any politics at all. Just be like, oh yeah, I don't like being mean to my opponents.
Yeah, look, the feds make this way harder, right? And I'm a governor with a divided legislature. I'm one of the only ones in the country. I've got a state house led by Democrats, by the way, by 1 seat. The state Senate led by Republicans, literally by 2 seats. So out of 253 lawmakers, 3 seats separate the whole thing. I've managed to bring them all together to do big things, cutting taxes, investing in education. By the way, investing in public safety. I made a commitment to hire 2,000 cops and put a few $100 million into violence prevention. It's working. Crime is down 42% in Pennsylvania. So we've shown an ability to come together and get stuff done, and certainly we're going to do that here.
The thing I like about you, Governor Shapiro, is that you aren't busy pointing fingers. You're always doing the work. And it's interesting because you're one of the people whose names comes up to run for president all the time, but you don't seem to be actively campaigning for that like some of the other governors do. So how do you stay Pennsylvania first?
That's my job, man. I took an oath of office to 13 million people to work my ass off for them every single day. And I'm busy every day doing that. And look, I think the most important thing when people trust you to do these jobs is do the job. Show your work. And I've always believed that the best politics is really good policy, and good policy means lives get better. So that's the way I do it. I don't want to in any way have that answer be viewed as a diss of any other governor. Man, I've got a great relationship with my fellow governors. We've got some amazing governors doing great work across the country, and I really applaud them.
I wanted to ask about, with the government shutdown, how bad is that affecting the regular person in Pennsylvania? Because it's what, this is the 3rd week now, going on the 4th week?
What, 16 days, I think?
16 days, and it's getting to the point where it seems like a lot of people are going to be fired. A lot of people are not going to get paid.
They working without pay.
They're working without pay. Some people say they're not even going to get back pay. So how difficult is that for your people in Pennsylvania? And what do you tell them, right? It's like, how do you tell somebody to keep working and don't get paid? How do you tell somebody to work, but then they can't pay their mortgage or they can't pay for this? Like, so what do you say?
Largest employer in Pennsylvania is the federal government. Second largest is the state government. And I'm proud to be colleagues with 80,000 people that work for our state government. I work with them every single day. I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the work that they do, from the folks who clean our buildings to the people that go out and test for public health issues out in our rural communities. I value the work that they do. The idea.
Sorry guys, this is like really fucking boring. Do we have? Oh shit, I'm gonna get attacked here. Do we have him talking about Israel and Palestine? What do we have here? Shapiro was bothered by the lobbyist question. Those were not lazy questions, Shapiro. You were just not ready for them. Okay, come on. Let's look it up. Show transcript. So he called the questions lazy. Lazy. It's a bit of a shortcut and a bit of a lazy question. Okay, here we go. This is the juicy part. Roll back a little bit.
You say peace. It's like Hamas.
Stop. The violence has stopped. You got to feed these folks in Gaza. You got former president. He'd been consistently down 5, 6, 7 points. When the vice president jumped in, you saw the numbers close, but she never overtook him in any of the data that we saw. And look, I think beyond the data, I got a pretty good feel for my state.
Right.
And in my state, you get a sense of sort of where different areas are going and how they're moving. And she just never was able to close that gap. Now, look, if she would have won Pennsylvania by 50,000 votes, would I have been shocked? No. But you asked me, was I surprised or shocked that he won? No, because basically by the end, when we were in that final couple weeks, she's kind of -1, even, -2, something like that. I mean, it wasn't that she had overcome where he was.
If she had separated herself more from Biden, do you think she could have won the state? What do you think was the reason why she didn't?
I don't know. I mean, look, what's the title of the book? 107 days. Yeah, I mean, she didn't have a lot of time, right? In fairness to her. But it kind of goes back to what I was just saying a moment ago. People want to know who you are. They want genuineness. They want authenticity. They want to feel like they know who you are. And, clearly that was not accomplished.
How much credit do you think President Trump should get for the?
Yeah. Kamala Harris did not lose the election due to a lack of authenticity. I mean, that was a part of it, but I really don't think that's like in the top 10 reasons. It's a contributor. It's a contributor to some reasons, right? She's not authentic. That's why she couldn't go on Joe Rogan's podcast. That's why she couldn't go on to Dr. Mike's podcast. That's why she couldn't actually respond off the cuff to pro-Palestinian protesters. Like, her inauthenticity led to a lot of other bad optics, right? But I wouldn't say that that was the biggest reason, because it wasn't. Like, it contributed to other big reasons. At the end of the day, it's her policies that are shitty. And whether it's a chicken or the egg issue, like, did her policies cause her to be inauthentic? Or is she just inauthentic and that caused her to have bad policies? But her policies were shit. That is the biggest reason, in my opinion, why she didn't win the election. She was running in a year, in a political season where every single country had an anti-incumbency vote. She had a rare opportunity to be the anti-incumbent, while also being from the same party as the current president, but being a new candidate. And she completely tossed it in the trash by saying that she basically had no new policies, no novel policies to create a difference in society, and she wouldn't have done anything differently than what Joe Biden did. She tied herself onto a sinking ship, and then she lost the election. So I don't think her lack of authenticity is the biggest reason why she lost Pennsylvania and lost the election.
Israel and Gaza, peace deal.
He deserves credit. I gave him credit. I gave him credit for getting the hostages home. I think
what we just ended up on the Gaza issue.
I mean, it wasn't that she had overcome where he was.
If she had separated herself more from Biden, do you think she could have won?
Okay, chat. What should I start leveling up? I was spamming faith so I can use a cool scythe. But now I kind of just want to get my base stats up, like my vigor and like my stamina and HP. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Strength doesn't increase HP. Vigor does. Endurance increases my stamina. What build should I go for? Her policy was not Trump. Exactly. Like, she attached herself to do-nothing Republicans like Liz Cheney, who are extremely unpopular. Like, this is not a winning strategy right now. Have I considered that she is a transnational? Yeah, Kamala Harris actually just is a transnational small business. That's like she's just like you take the image of 3 kids in a trench coat pretending to be an adult human. Kamala Harris is actually just a collection of minority majority located small businesses all bundled together in a suit dress. That's what we have here. I'd like to be so my idea for this Elden Ring build is I'm gonna be like faithful and stuff, and like use faith magic. So kind of going for that. But I don't know, I haven't really found any weapons that are super cool or fun to play yet. But I mean, I am the confessor, so I'm kind of leaning into that. I'll just increase my maybe HP. 547 for endurance. I do run out of endurance a lot. I think I'm gonna do that. But yeah, I still need to find some fun.
What do you think was the reason why she didn't?
I don't know. I mean, look, what's the title of the book? 107 days. Yeah, I mean, she didn't have a lot of time,
yeah.
Right? In fairness to her. But it kind of goes back to what
such a stupid fucking answer. Why didn't she separate herself from Joe Biden? Because she didn't have a lot of time. She only had 70 days to separate her. Really? That's your response? She didn't separate herself from Joe Biden because she only had 70 days to do so? That's such a lame response, dude. You're basically just being like, she couldn't effectuate a message in 70 days. She couldn't even write a message in that amount of time. That is not a good response to why didn't she do anything different? Okay, continue, Josh.
I was just saying a moment ago. People want to know who you are. They want genuineness. They want authenticity. They want to feel like they know who you are. And clearly that was not accomplished.
How much credit do you think President Trump should get for the Israel and Gaza peace deal?
He deserves credit. I gave him credit. I gave him credit for getting the hostages home.
Yeah, that was her mom.
What I also said is he's got a hell of a lot of work to do on what I think is being called phase 2. And phase 2 is arguably the most important piece of this. Now that the hostages are home and the war has stopped, the violence has stopped, you got to feed these folks in Gaza. You got to make sure that they get the humanitarian aid that they so desperately need. And you've got to get these other Arab nations to actually pony up and begin to rebuild.
Fuck, I keep reading chat when Josh Shapiro is actually saying the thing that I wanted to hear him say.
What do you think President Trump should get for the Israel and Gaza peace deal?
He deserves credit. I gave him credit. I gave him credit for getting the hostages home.
By the way, it's not a peace deal. It was a hostage exchange. There have been over 100 Palestinians killed by Israel. That is not a peace deal. That is not a pathway that Donald Trump wrote out to lead to peace. Anyone who is saying so is either ignorant or purposely lying.
I think what I also said is he's got a hell of a lot of work to do on what I think is being called phase 2. And phase 2 is arguably the most important piece of this. Now that the hostages are home and the war has stopped, the violence has stopped, you got to feed these folks in Gaza. You got to make sure that they get the humanitarian aid that they so desperately need. And you've got to get these other Arab nations to actually pony up and begin to rebuild those neighborhoods, rebuild.
The Arab nations need to rebuild the neighborhoods in Gaza. I honestly can't believe you just said that. Israel has been bombing the fuck out of Palestine with American-made weapons. And we're saying that the Arab nations need to rebuild Gaza? The Arab nations? Not Israel? Not America? Not the UK? Not any of the countries that have been refusing to vote for Palestinian acceptance into the UN? The Arab nations need to do it? Why? Is it because they're Arab? So you're just being racist now. Why? He's just being racist? Why would he? Dude, I'm fucking speechless. Oh my God. That's so stupid.
That area. At the same time, Hamas has to be disarmed. They cannot continue to be in power. Look at what they've been doing just over the last 48 hours. It's now that the hostages are home and the war has stopped, the violence has stopped. You got to feed these folks in Gaza. You got to make sure that they get the humanitarian aid that they so desperately need. And you've got to get these other Arab nations to actually pony up and begin to rebuild
the Arab nations need to pony up. Dude, it's just such disgusting racism. Yeah, Gaza is Arabs. Why the fuck would Israel, the people that hate Arabs, pay for Arabs to rebuild their housing? Why would people that want Arabs dead pay for Arabs to not be dead? Right? That's essentially what he's saying. Why would America, a colonial empire, why would they pay for Arabs to rebuild? It has to be Arabs that do it. Dude, listen, Zionists do not understand that this is the same fucking talking points that Nazis use against Jews in Israel. Why would we pay? Why would we as white people pay for Jews? They should pay for themselves. Why are we giving money to Jews? They should have to pay for themselves. They're like leeches. This is the same type of racist bullshit that he is adamantly opposed to. And he's just employing it here because being Islamophobic is as easy as breathing to him. We just live in such a fucking Islamophobic country that he doesn't even realize it. I've actually I don't know, man. Even on some Fox News interviews with Zoran about the peace deal, I haven't heard them say Arab nations need to pony up. This truly is like an ideological Zionist talking about the future of Gaza. Israel and America destroyed Gaza, but it's going to be the Arab nations that have to rebuild it.
Those neighborhoods, rebuild that area. At the same time, Hamas has to be disarmed. They cannot continue to be in power. Look at what they've been doing just over the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
They're murdering their fellow citizens there because they don't like that they're supporting a rival political party, or they believe.
Yeah, it's only acceptable for Palestinians to be murdered when it's Israelis doing it, right? Right, Shapiro? Dude, are you fucking... Dude, Israel's killed 100. Okay, let's look this up. Yesterday, it was 97 Palestinians were killed. How many Palestinians have been killed since yesterday? Israel ceasefire. 7 hours ago. About 100 Palestinians have been killed. This was 7 hours ago. Blatant breaches. Do we have an exact update? "38 minutes ago, Israeli forces arrest 4 Palestinians in occupied West Bank. More Palestinians killed in Gaza. U.S. officials visit Israel for talks." 57 Palestinians were taken to hospitals across the war-ravaged enclave on Wednesday. Hamas officials says Trump mediators assured that the war is over. Okay. Here we have 71 attacks against Palestinians in the past month when they were trying to harvest their olives. We watched this video yesterday of just like a Palestinian grandma trying to get olives from her garden and an Israeli settler just like hitting her in the fucking face. 4 Palestinians were arrested in the West Bank. 50 Palestinians were medically evacuated to hospitals. And about 100 Palestinians have been killed since the ceasefire. And this motherfucker has the nerve to be like, Hamas needs to be disarmed because they're killing Palestinians. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Moza. I don't know if you remember my nurse that went to Gaza, but she went again on a rescue mission, and she said they let them take families but kept the young men. What do you mean? Hamas let them take families? What do you mean? Israel let someone take families, but they kept the young men? Like when they released the hostages, Israel kept the young men in prison? Yeah, it's completely fine when Israel kills an entire family by shooting their bus with a tank when they cross some kind of invisible line. But if it's Palestinians executing terrorists, then that's a war crime or whatever, and they're like subhuman animals. They don't have any right to self-determination.
That they collaborated with the Israelis, so you cannot allow that area. At the same time, Hamas has to be disarmed. They cannot continue to be in power. Look at what they've been doing just over the last 48 hours. They're murdering their fellow citizens there because they don't like that they're supporting a rival political party, or they believe that they collaborated with the Israelis. So you cannot allow Hamas to remain in power, and you've got to...
Like, Israel is literally funding extremist groups that have been stealing food and killing people in southern Gaza. That's what Israel has been funding. According to Israel, those same extremist groups were also killing IDF soldiers. So, like, yeah, if you think that it's fine for Israel to do a genocide in order to kill some extremist groups in Gaza, then why are you against Hamas doing the same thing?
Get aid in there, and you've got to get the rebuilding process started. So, yeah, I give President Trump credit for what he did. By the same token, he's got a hell of a lot more work to do, and I hope he sees this through.
There's a lot of people who feel like the deal isn't complete, though, because a lot of the dead bodies haven't...
They're still digging the dead bodies.
Correct.
Returned.
Yeah.
And, you know, when it comes... When you
dead hostages.
Sorry. And when you say peace, it's like Hamas doesn't believe in Israel.
Yeah, that Israel bombed. The reason that Hamas doesn't have access to these bodies is because they didn't do an execution on the hostages to get them to... which ended up killing them, and then they kept the body safe. The reason they don't have the bodies is because Israel bombed the places they were keeping the hostages, and they're buried under a shit ton of rubble. That's why they don't have the bodies of the hostages.
Right, they exist. Yep. The current Israeli government doesn't believe in a two-state solution, so how is there ever going to be peace?
Look, I'll just tell you my views on this. And again, you asked me about the president before. I was trying to give you an honest answer on that. We got to figure out how to get to phase 2. We got to disarm Hamas, get them out of power, and invest in Gaza. Now, what does the future look like? And this is where I just have profound differences from Netanyahu, and I've been really outspoken about this even prior to October 7th.
Absolutely.
The only way you're going to have peace and stability in the region for a long time is if you're a kid growing up in the Palestinian areas and you believe you've got a future. You got a future because of the job you want, because the education you're getting, you know, whatever name is. By the way, the way our kids feel like they've got a future here in this country. When people have hope and they believe that they can have a brighter future, they don't turn to terrorism. They don't turn to hate. Instead, they focus on loving, and they focus on how to create a better future for themselves and their families. So to me, if you can stabilize the region, get Hamas out of power, have the Arab world come together and invest, then you have to go on to the next phase of the conversation, which is a two-state solution, something I have supported for quite some time. Hamas doesn't recognize Israel's right to exist. That's why they cannot be in power. Their whole charter calls for the destruction of Israel, the killing of Jews. And on the same token, and Hamas is a terrorist group, Netanyahu, on the other side, the leader of Israel, doesn't believe in a two-state solution. So he either can't be in power, right, if you're going to get to a two-state solution, or the president needs to get him to change his views on that issue. Look, I'm not naive. You're not going to get to a two-state solution in the next few months or probably even year. But we've got to get on a path where Palestinians can live their lives with dignity, where Israelis can live their lives with dignity and safety, and where everybody in the region feels like they have an opportunity for success and prosperity and promise in the future.
I agree with you about Hamas.
That's so nice of Josh Shapiro to understand that like Palestinians should have safety and they should have the grace to live their lives, right? That's really nice of him to say. I appreciate that. Damn it. Backstab.
Should be removed from power too. And you called him one of the worst leaders of all time. Yeah. And you defend Israel clearly because you're Jewish, right?
No, not because I'm Jewish, because I think, first off, I love Israel. Mm-hmm. I think it is a wonderful country with a rich heritage. I think it is an incredible melting pot of people, Jewish and non-Jewish. I also think it is vitally important to our national security. It is important to having stability in the region. You look around at these other Arab nations that have created relationships with Israel.
Dude, holy shit, how can you say that with a straight face? Israel is vital to have stability in the region. He actually just said that with a straight face. I can't believe it. Israel is extremely vital to have stability in the region, dude. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Where there's now commerce and other activities through what's known as the Abraham Accords and other agreements.
Oh, there's commerce. Israel allows commerce to occur. As they're literally blocking food from entering Gaza. Because of the extremist groups they funded, allegedly killed their troops in southern Gaza. And so they're blocking food from entering Gaza, and they're a stabilizing force in the Middle East because they allow commerce to occur.
They view Israel as critical for their future and vice versa. So I think for all those reasons, I support it. I don't like Netanyahu. I don't think that he's led Israel down a good path. I think he's been a destructive leader. I don't get a vote there, but I sure as heck hope that as we go forward here, either the president gets him to change his views or the Israelis make a different choice in their election. That's their right to pick, not mine. But I think this is not just important because I'm a proud American Jew. This is important, I think, for America's national security interests.
Where's the line between criticizing Israeli policy and endorsing actions you believe cross moral or even legal boundaries?
Explain what you're asking me. I don't follow.
Meaning, like with Netanyahu, right? You say he's one of the worst leaders of all time. Clearly, some people say he's crossed a lot of moral and legal boundaries. Mm-hmm. So where is the line between criticizing him, but I guess endorsing those actions? Because if you're kind of,
I understand your question. Yeah. Do you love this country?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And do you think Donald Trump does a lot of messed up shit?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's the line. I think we are. Obviously free in this country and freedom in Israel to be able to criticize leaders, to be able to say, I disagree with this policy. I don't like the way you did this. I don't like the way you prosecuted the war. Whatever the case is, that's fair game. Mm-hmm. By the way, and it's fair game here in America to be able to call that out if you disagree. Now, when some people use that as a way to promote anti-Semitism and bigotry and hatred and Islamophobia, that's not okay.
Explain to me how that happens. Explain to me how you have a criticism of Netanyahu and then it's like anti-Semitic, right? Because you can... he didn't say if you criticize him or if you're anti-Semitic towards him, it's not okay. He said if you use criticisms of his policies to be anti-Semitic, that's not okay. Okay, explain to me how a criticism of Netanyahu's policies can be anti-Semitic, right? Because I would argue even the classic, what we're seeing, like the classic anti-Semitic trope, that people are using, where the Jews control American politicians, the Jews control like influencers, and they're paying for shit like that. I would say that's not even a criticism of Netanyahu's policy. I mean, it kind of is, but that's not like a domestic policy of Israel. That's more of a media policy that he has, a propaganda policy. Like, explain to me how criticizing his genocide can be anti-Semitic.
So I think criticizing policy, criticizing leaders, fair game. When you use that as an excuse to criticize someone because of their faith or how they look or the way they're raising their kids, I think that crosses.
No, dude, this is so brain dead. He's like, you can criticize their policies, that's fine. But if you criticize how they look or their religion, that's not good. Okay? But like he can't just say that, right? He can't just say, if you criticize Netanyahu for being Jewish, that's bad. That's anti-Semitic, but you can criticize his policies. He can't just say that. He can't separate these two. He insists on connecting them, right? He says, if you use his policies to criticize his faith, that's bad. He insists on having a connective thread between criticism of the policies and criticism of him as a Jewish person. Like, this is so dishonest. As he is trying to say you shouldn't be anti-Semitic towards Netanyahu, he is intrinsically linking Jewishness to the policy of genocide, which is what Netanyahu's doing. And this is why I say that Zionists are the most anti-Semitic people you will ever meet, because they desperately need it to be the case that Jews need to be intrinsically linked to genocide. Because if they're not, then a lot of their arguments fall apart. A lot of their propaganda and their talking points fall flat on their face when you can say, okay, well, you're doing a genocide. That has nothing to do with you being Jewish. They will insist that it does have something to do with them being Jewish. And like, it's just so sad. It's like saddeningly anti-Semitic. Hearing a guy who ostensibly claims to care about Jewish people insist that the policy of genocide has something to do with Netanyahu being Jewish it's really sad, because it's such a predominant narrative that anywhere from Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, to Josh Shapiro, to Ethan Klein, they'll all insist upon this. Even fucking Joe Biden will talk about it.
I agree. Let's stay here for a second, right? Because I said Israeli policy. I probably should say Netanyahu policy, right? All right. Or when you say America, do you say Trump policy? Right. But those are the leaders at the time. So should we generalize? Should they reflect the whole country?
No, I think it should reflect the leaders who are in power.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm critical of President Trump, and I love this country. I mean, I serve this country. I believe in the values of this country. I believe that we're a work in progress and that we're always perfecting our union. I believe that we're a country that in every chapter of our American story, we grow stronger, we grow more tolerant, we grow more just. And I also believe in this American story that we have chapters where we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And right now we're in the midst of taking a step back. Maybe you could even argue 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 steps back. It doesn't make me love this country any less. It actually makes me want to fight even harder to strengthen what I believe is the best of this nation.
And the only reason I'm asking these questions is because, a lot of people feel like AIPAC and pro-Israel lobbyists have a lot of influence on elected officials here in America. Why do they have so much influence?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really deal with AIPAC. They're more dealing at the federal level. And look, I think you can broaden.
He doesn't deal with AIPAC? Okay. Let's look it up. Let's see if he's speaking the truth. Josh Shapiro, AIPAC. Open secrets. Grand total of contributions Josh Shapiro has reported in 2021. $13 million? Almost $14 million? Top 100 contributors to his campaign. Not employed. 2.17. Kinetic. Okay, let's just look this up. Israel. AIPAC. Oh, I don't really see AIPAC. What do we have here? International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. American Federation of State. Laborers Union. Not employed. Self-employed. Organization unavailable for these records. Can I just top 100? Export to ZZF. What is this? Jacobin. Should disqualify him as VP. Oh, this is an old article then, right? I mean, yeah, he's obviously racist. It would be a gift to AIPAC, and we'll send a message. So I guess like AIPAC's not one of his top funders. But once again, like if you criticize AIPAC, it's not so much as them giving you money, it's that they're going to threaten to fund your opposition. Olay would clap his cheek so quickly. Track AIPAC. This is the AIPAC tracker on X. Potential Kamala Harris VP pick. Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro is supporting a bipartisan bill that would block colleges and universities from receiving state funding if they boycott or make divestments from Israel. Okay, that's great. Colleges that divest from Israel would be punished. I mean, Okay, good. He's not getting paid by AIPAC. At least it's not in his top 10 donors. That is good, but I guess they don't need to pay him. He just loves Israel that much, where if you literally divest from Israel, then you're going to get punished according to the bill that he supports.
That out and say,
he's just a dyed in the cloth Israel supporter.
Elected officials here in America. Why do they have so much influence?
I don't know. I mean, I don't really deal with AIPAC. They're more dealing at the federal level. And look, I think you can broaden that out and say every lobbying group has too much power. I mean, I think we all can agree there's way too much money in politics, and oftentimes that money brings with it undue influence.
That's true.
My focus every day is trying to get out and be with regular folk and hear what's on their minds and talk to parents about what they're worried about for their kids' future. And, sort of try and get out of that echo chamber that oftentimes surround you when you're in the Capitol or when you're just in those circles, and talk to real people every day. I think that's how I've been able to kind of keep my feel for where things are. I think it's why we're doing so well in Pennsylvania is you focus on regular people, not just the inside voices.
Because I read an article in the New York Times about Democrats pulling away from AIPAC. So clearly it's having some impact on them politically if they feel like they got to.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's become a political issue. You've used it as a political issue. You've questioned federal representatives when they're on here on that. I mean, I think if I can say this to you, not trying to offend you here, but I think it's a little bit of a shortcut and a little bit of a lazy question. I think the better question is, how do you really feel about Israel? How you feel about it?
Talking about AIPAC is a lazy question. I mean, no, it's not. It's a legitimate question. I do think. I mean, I made the point yesterday that it's a bit of a red herring when we're talking about the actual genocide going on. I made the point yesterday when I was covering Charlie Critical, but this is a legitimate question to ask a politician who would know about AIPAC and would know about the funding habits of AIPAC and how people are bought and paid for. Like, it's not a lazy question at all, dude. Kind of crazy that he would say asking me about AIPAC is a lazy question. Just tell me how. Just ask me how I feel about Israel. Well, if you're getting paid to have an opinion on Israel, then it seems relevant. Then your position on AIPAC and funding seems relevant here, right?
The two-state solution. How do you feel about the war? How do you feel about the hostages or hungry kids or what have you? I think demanding answers on those questions is more important than, hey, what about this lobbying group or that lobbying group?
Well, what do you say to the critics who argue that U.S. foreign policy on Israel is often shaped not by national interest, but by the lobbying strength of these people?
I think that's a fair conversation to have. And I think it should be on any elected official at the federal.
Okay, but you just said it was a lazy question to bring it up.
Level to say, hey, I'm listening to this group. But by the way, there's groups on other sides too. I'm listening to that group. But at the end of the day, we want our federal representatives to be able to sit here in this chair and answer the questions about why they voted A or why they voted B or why they feel a certain way. And I think it's just a little lazy to say, oh, it's got to be because of that interest group. Maybe someone actually believes those.
He's asking you about it, dude. He's not saying that he's not making the assertion that it has to be because of AIPAC. He's asking you if it is or not, or like what the relationship with AIPAC and politicians are, or politicians is. Like, it's a very valid question, is it not?
Those views, or maybe someone feels strongly about that particular way.
So how do you push back on the lobbyists who have too much influence on politics?
I kind of do it the way I do it, which is in my state, I focus on the needs of the people. I focus on what I hear from folks. I kind of have an informal rule that I work about 7 days a week. I try and only be in my physical office in the Capitol about 3 days a week. And so I'm physically out and about listening to folks. I was on that farm in Lebanon County yesterday. Tomorrow morning I'll be in Erie, Pennsylvania. I think the more I am out and not in scripted moments, but actually just talking to real folk, hearing what's on their minds, that allows me to keep fighting for them. I'll tell you something else I do. You're going to laugh, but I spent a lot of time on the Pennsylvania Turnpike going different places. I will make a point to have the guys stop at a rest stop, even if I don't really need anything, just to wander through and chat with folks and see what's on their mind.
So
like
cool.
I am always trying to find those moments where I can have the unscripted dialogue. When I'm at my kids' baseball game on the sideline or at one of their games, rather than just let people kind of come over to you and say, oh, hey, Gov, it's nice to meet you or whatever. Can we take a selfie? It's, hey, tell me what's on your mind. What's going on? Like, I'm happy to do the selfie with you, but in exchange for that, I want to know what you're thinking about.
Right.
I am always craving those moments where I can have those conversations. And when I can have those conversations, then quite frankly, the powerful folks in the fancy suits that wander around the Capitol become less important to how you form your views on things.
Yeah, I love that because you're out there connecting with people. That shows real power to the people. To your point, folks in D.C. is connecting with the lobbyists. So they're giving the power to the lobbyists. So I wonder if it's just a psychological thing. Like, yo, step out of D.C., step out of that bubble and go shake some hands.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to people that serve in Congress. I'm sure a lot of them do what I do and do a great job.
All right, bro. I think we like hit the Israel part, but yeah, just like pretty insane Islamophobia there, and then just an absolute refusal. Wait, I thought we were friends. Oh, that was an actual human. And then an absolute refusal to reckon with the idea that he's getting paid by AIPAC, and then there's other Democratic politicians getting paid by AIPAC, and he's like, this is completely irrelevant. Just ask them about their opinions. Don't consider where their opinions could be coming from. Just ask them about their opinions on things. Which is pretty crazy. Okay. All right, come on. There we go. Dead sorcerer. Okay, next. What's next? Oh, Curtis Sliwa. Long have I been going? I should go. Oh shit, I should go to bed. All right, guys, I'm gonna clear this tower. I'm gonna listen to this stupid. Okay, you know what? Have any of you guys seen this channel before? Have any of you guys seen this guy's channel before? Because I reached out to him about his ContraPoints video, and he said he'd be down to talk, so I might be talking to him tomorrow. So I wanted to like go over some of his videos today and just like get kind of a baseline, because the only one I watched was this ContraPoints video. This is how the US lost the drug war in Afghanistan. I read Dave Rubin's book, so you don't have to. But why buy a health insurance CEO? Tom Hanks' Afghan Crusade. All right, let's look at the Dave Rubin's book.
On September 4th, 2024, the U.S. Justice Department indicted 2 RT employees for covertly funding a U.S. company accused of pushing pro-Russia narratives to an American audience. The company in question was Tenet Media, which had been co-founded by prominent far-right commentator and Blaze TV contributor Lauren Chen and her husband. Implicated in the scheme were several other online right-wing talking heads, including Benny Johnson, Lauren Southern, and the notorious BALD, Tim Pool. There, you gotta insert the clip of Tim Pool saying, "I just opine on the news and I get a lot wrong."
Look, I read the news and I opine on it, and I'm wrong about a lot.
While Chen's complicity in accepting foreign funds to run the company appears to be quite explicit, it's possible that these other pundits were unaware of the source of their paychecks. Perhaps Tim Pool thought that the podcast clips he posted on Tenet's YouTube channel, getting less than 10,000 views, were simply worth the $100,000 he received every week. For obvious reasons, this whole thing was a blow to the credibility of everyone involved. Suddenly, all the deranged things that Pool and his peers had said about Ukraine had a pretty simple explanation. Rather than being free thinkers, these commentators may have actually been the worst thing one could be online: grifters. The G word gets thrown around a lot and suggests that the person in question is little more than a snake oil merchant, chasing clicks rather than sharing the truth with their audiences. In the world of network news, the label has been applied to hosts like Tucker Carlson, but to some extent, it's expected that the people in mainstream news are playing a role. I mean, they're reading off a teleprompter, and the only true thing that Bill O'Reilly ever taught me was that the anchor doesn't write what goes on that thing. Where the accusation of being a grifter really matters is online, where we're all supposed to be our real, authentic selves. And for this reason, the griftosphere truly thrives among the right-wing alternative media weirdos that live in my computer. This was exposed in no uncertain terms in 2018 when YouTuber Blair White claimed that many commentators in the right-wing media space—
What the fuck is this video? Oh, Dave Rubin's book. Yeah, we're not getting through this whole thing.
—were grifters. She would later claim that one of the people she referred to here was the alleged workplace abuser and confirmed debate dodger Steven Crowder, who has been completely—
Okay, sorry to like pause this video, but this is I like the lore that's being set up here. So for people that have played this game, maybe you know, but it's like this tower, I guess, is, I don't know who the soldiers are, but it looks like these soldiers were waylaid by a bunch of spirits, and that's why they're fighting down there. So it looks like it was like some kind of soldier encampment, and I guess leading to that castle. So was this castle, is that the Stormvale Castle? And is that the one that, yeah, I think that's Stormvale Castle. So maybe this is like an outpost of Stormvale Castle that got taken over by like the spirits from Rhea Lucaria. Pretty cool. Because you see all of the spirits had completely taken over this area. And like killed all of the guards too. And also like with that bear down there, there was like a campsite, and then he was over a corpse, like chewing on the corpse. I'm not fighting that bear again, by the way. The wrongest story ever told video is really good. I didn't finish his ContraPoints video, but I was super surprised by where it went based on what I had seen from him. Where did it go? Like, I listened to it. It didn't seem that bad. It seemed kind of standard, like standard boilerplate. The wrongest story ever told. You have a different channel? Because he doesn't have that many videos, right? Oh, this is a fundraiser. Marcus Luttrell's Lone Survivor. Okay, maybe I'll watch this tomorrow, and then I could like talk about it a little bit. I said I wanted to talk with him about the ContraPoints video, but we'll watch this for a bit.
Since. But perhaps no one has been on the receiving end of the grifter label more than the subject of today's video. Everyone's favorite classical liberal, David Joshua Rubin. Before he was also outed as a recipient of Russian funds in the DOJ's indictment, Dave got to start doing some of the worst stand-up comedy you've ever seen in your life.
I feel like that would, if you read a lot, you'd become bisexual. Like, you just keep reading, and then one day you get, I don't know, some words, and then... Okay, very good. We got some good gay guys right here. That I can tell. Gay.
Bro, I did not realize that Dave Rubin started out in comedy. That makes his political career even sadder.
It's cool.
Somehow, he was able to...
But also, like, his political commentary hasn't deviated from that stand-up routine since then. He just kind of, like, vaguely gestures into the ether about something that he thinks is, like, a cogent point, and then he just trails off and leaves his audience to put the rest together.
Leverage this into some talk show gigs before securing his own program, The Rubin Report, on the liberal Young Turks network. Within a few years, he would take his show independent. As he did so, he took on one of the most annoying gimmicks I've ever seen in online politics. Dave became an ideas guy. He and his guests would just constantly pat each other on the back and congratulate themselves on their ability to share ideas and to disagree with each other, even though they rarely seemed to do much of the latter. Dave took constant pains to remind his audience that he was a liberal, but would almost exclusively invite right-wing and disaffected left-wing guests on his show to whine about the excesses of the modern progressive movement that had scared him away. Within a few years, he would very publicly leave the left through a PragerU video that has now been watched over 16 million times. In the 7 years since, his guest list...
Dave Rubin, the original Why I Left the Left grifter. It is a great grift. I have to do it eventually. Or maybe I should just become conservative and then do a Why I Left the Right video. It's so good. It just tickles everyone's fancy when you see a storyline like that.
And his coverage of contemporary politics have continued to move rightward until he found himself providing full-throated endorsements of Donald Trump in both 2020 and 2024. There's an entire cottage industry of people dunking on this guy's show. It's incredible.
He is still in recovery mode from taking in so many high-level important ideas.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
When Anna Kasparian was on the Majority Report.
Hit us again. Come on, go. I have to say that my brain is still in recovery mode from taking in so many high-level important ideas.
When did he say that? Was that recent?
But this video is
Wait,
not about
he actually
Dave's
said
sycophantic
that?
talk show. It's about the sycophantic book he released in 2018. After watching so many clips online of Dave embarrassing himself over the years and being called a grifter, I decided that I needed to read his book to fully understand him. Is he truly a fraud, or is he just a right-wing ideologue who had been persuaded by the power?
I'm sorry, you do not need to read his book to understand that. Like, I appreciate that that's the premise of this video, but no one has to read that book. No one has to do it. You suffered for your art, and I appreciate you for it.
Power of big ideas. So in between videos talking about my true passion, which is US covert operations during the Cold War, I thought it could be fun to take on some light work here and look back at Dave's first venture as an author, which he aptly titled, Don't Burn This Book. The book has 10 chapters altogether. The first 2 largely focus on his personal journey from a self-proclaimed lifelong lefty to the partisan Republican he has come to be today. I'll talk about his personal journey near the end when we try to make sense of who Dave is as a person, whether his beliefs are genuine, and how we should judge him. But before we get there, I want to focus on Dave's actual arguments. The third chapter of this book is called Think Freely or Die. In it, he lays out his positions on all the contentious issues of the day. I'm going to spend most of the video talking about this chapter because that's where the bulk of the book's ideas are. And if there's one thing this book is about, it's ideas. He tells us so at the start of chapter 2 when he writes,
"That's right, people. I want you to walk into a bar and order yourselves a full-bodied opinion. I want you to get absolutely wasted on facts until 3 a.m. and then...
Okay, I take it back. You definitely needed to read this book. This type of humor should not be left to just the conservatives and the people that don't know Dave Rubin is gay yet. This needs to be shared with humanity. It's too precious. It's too precious to just stay between two pieces of cardboard. These ideas need to be shared with the rest of the internet.
Ready to pass out. I want you to get another large glass of reality and chug it. I then want you to have intellectual binges that are so wild you go missing for days, eventually waking up on a stranger's sofa, hungover on reality.
I cannot stress enough that the entire book is written in this tone, and I suffered deep psychic damage because of it. Now, as I go through this, I want to be clear that in responding to Dave's points here, I'm not necessarily always trying to completely debunk him. I'll mostly be focusing on why his arguments are really bad or miss important points. So for each position Dave lays out, I will spend about 5 minutes explaining why I think his arguments are total strawmen. I'll be saving the best for last and covering Dave's thoughts on the economy at the very end. This one will be much longer than 5 minutes because it explains why he's so consistently wrong throughout the book. Let's enter Dave Rubin's marketplace of ideas and figure out if this book is truly worth burning.
Guys, if you truly want to see Dave Rubin's book torn apart point by point in meticulous detail, which I think gives the book more credit than it deserves, but if you want to watch that, you're welcome to. I'm not going to. I'm going to try to kill this tree sentinel and then go to bed. Wait, is this a tree sentinel? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, hopefully I can have a conversation with this guy tomorrow. We might talk about the ContraPoints video. Seems pretty chill. But yeah, that should be fun. And man, yeah, we covered a lot of bullshit today. Bro, this guy kills. He two taps me. All right, we'll finish this tomorrow. There's now 57 Palestinians. Response to Israel's attack on Qatar was strong enough to shock the perpetrators. Qatar's Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani says while condemning Israel's continued violation of the ceasefire agreement, it's unfortunate that the international community remains incapable of enforcing respect when it comes to the tragedy of the Palestinian people. Yeah. We also affirm that Gaza Strip is an integral part of the Palestinian territories of the unified Palestinian state. I mean, yeah. Just like blatant violation day after day of ceasefire, and U.S. media just refuses to cover it. Like, what do we have? Ceasefire. BBC ceasefire. This is 11 hours ago. Trump threatens to eradicate Hamas if ceasefire collapses. That's the title of the ABC video? Okay, we'll just watch this. Here we go. Israel launches attacks in Gaza.
Middle East, where the Gaza ceasefire is under pressure.
Sorry, just two more videos and then I'm going to call it.
Accusing each other of violating the truth with violent strikes. Foreign correspondent Tom Sufi-Burge is on the scene in Israel. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, George. President Trump saying that US-brokered ceasefire in Gaza is still in place. And this morning, American mediators Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner rushing to Israel for urgent talks, touching down here in the past few hours because the fragile truce between Israel and Hamas collapsing over the weekend during a nearly 12-hour period. The IDF accusing Hamas of killing 2 of its soldiers Sunday in a surprise attack from a tunnel. Hamas denying involvement, but Israel retaliating, saying it targeted Hamas in a wave of airstrikes right across Gaza. 44 Palestinians Palestinians killed in the violence, according to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry. Israel stopping the flow of all humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip, but this morning allowing aid trucks to cross once again. Now, over the weekend, Hamas returning 2 more bodies of dead hostages, so 12 returned over the past week, but 16 are still unaccounted for, including the bodies of 2 Americans. In Gaza, some recovery efforts underway amid the monumental destruction there. The next stages of this deal are still complex and unclear. Robin.
It is. All right, Tom.
It is. Yeah, both of these guys are violating the ceasefire agreement, right? Right? Because there have been 100 Israelis killed. Both of them have violated the ceasefire agreement equally.
The US president is promising to eradicate Hamas in Gaza if it doesn't stick to the fragile ceasefire in the Strip. Both Israel and Hamas are accusing each other of breaching the deal. Our Middle East correspondent Matt Doran joins us now. G'day again, Matt. How significant is this as a threat from Donald Trump?
James, good morning. It's not maybe that surprising that Donald Trump is choosing to express himself in this way, considering that he is usually using flamboyant or fiery rhetoric. But it does show just how fragile this situation is and how the events of the last couple of days have put the future of this ceasefire front and centre of the minds of many, not only in this part of the world, but further afield, particularly in the United States. This is a deal that Donald Trump himself had brokered, so he wants to see it continue, but he's also taking a very firm line against Hamas, insisting that the militant group is at fault here when it comes to any violations of the deal. Now, both Israel and Hamas are accusing each other of jeopardizing this process. Israel is saying...
By the way, I haven't seen Israel accuse Hamas of violating the ceasefire. They said they were attacked by militants in the south. Hamas has not accepted credibility for that. They have not accepted responsibility for those attacks. Those were southern paramilitary groups that Israel funded.
Saying that Hamas is attacking its troops, that it's crossing into crossing beyond, I should say, the yellow line, the line or the boundary where Israeli forces have withdrawn to. It's also saying that Hamas is delaying the return of the bodies of the remaining Israeli hostages. In turn, Hamas is accusing Israel of indiscriminately attacking civilians, of withholding or blocking extra aid getting...
They're not accusing them of doing that. Israel is doing that. Israel said they were. Bro. Now we're going to have to go through... Dude, the entirety of Gaza is a fucking field of rubble. And now we're going to have to go through the arc of Hamas isn't returning the hostages' bodies. Now they're not returning the bodies of the hostages. We're going to go through this arc now. We're going to genocide Palestinians because they haven't returned the hostages' bodies. How are you seriously reporting on this? Israel is accusing Hamas of delaying the return of the bodies of the hostages. You mean the ones that Israel killed and buried under thousands of pounds of rubble? Are those the ones?
Into the Strip, saying that there had been almost 50 violations of this deal even before we saw the events of the weekend, when Israel launched dozens of strikes across the Strip, killing dozens of Palestinians in response to claimed violations of the deal. So it is an incredibly tense moment in the Middle East. The US Vice President J.D. Vance is due to arrive in Israel in the coming hours. He'll be discussing this situation with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But from his perspective, the US President, his boss, is saying that it's a very simple calculation.
59 countries that agreed to the deal. We have a peace in the Middle East for the first time ever. We made a deal with Hamas that, they're going to be very good, they're going to behave, they're going to be nice, and if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated, and they know that.
That's the US President speaking there, actually alongside the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in the White House. And Matt, has there been any progress at all on the return of the bodies of Israeli hostages?
Dude, I'm actually like about to puke from this news broadcast. Trump is like, Israel's bombed just dozens of times in the ceasefire, killed 100 Palestinians, probably more at this point, indiscriminately shot people for going over a invisible line, stopped food from coming into Gaza, and because Hamas did what? They did nothing. They did literally nothing. But Israel's paramilitary groups that they funded killed 2 of their soldiers because, once again, they didn't fucking pull out of Gaza. They're still in Gaza. So they're now clashing with these terrorist groups that they funded. Because of Israel's own incompetence, Trump's like, we're going to genocide the Palestinians. And then the news just plays that clip and is like, can you tell me about the bodies of the hostages more? No, it's not. This is ABC. This is fucking like, I guess ABC News, I guess ABC doesn't have any fucking news about the Gaza ceasefire except for ABC News Australia. They don't have any fucking video. I'm telling you, dude, no American outlets are covering this shit at all. No American outlets are covering this. Like, NPR did a story on it yesterday. They didn't cover it today at all. It's absolutely just disheartening. I don't know why I don't know why I still care about the news covering this. I should expect of what I'm seeing right now. Dude, they literally just played a clip of Trump being like, we're going to wipe them all out. We're going to eradicate them. And then he's like, can you tell me more about the bodies of the hostages that they haven't returned?
We made a deal with Hamas that, they're going to be very good. They're going to behave. They're going to be nice. And if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated, and they know that.
That's the US President speaking there, actually alongside the Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese in the White House. And Matt, has there been any progress at all on the return of the bodies of Israeli hostages?
Okay, I'm done. I'm ending it there. No follow-up about the eradicate Hamas. No follow-up about how Hamas has literally not violated the ceasefire at all. There's no evidence that Hamas did. No follow-up about the hundreds of Palestinians that Israel has killed since the ceasefire. Just, oh, okay, yeah, he's gonna eradicate all of Hamas, which we know what that means. That means kill every Palestinian there. And has there been any updates about the return of the fucking bodies of the hostages? Dude, there's live Palestinians being like teetering on a knife's edge right now, and they're like, what about the bodies that Israel killed? What about the Jewish bodies that got crushed under the bombs of Israel? Like, what about those bodies? We don't care about the Palestinian bodies. Let's talk about let's talk about the Israeli bodies that were bombed by Israel. Fucking hell, dude. All right, guys, I'm out of here. This pissed me off so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. Want more streams like this? Please consider joining the channel as a member. It's only 99 cents a month. It'll be cool. Your name will be in green. But other than that, consider subscribing, consider liking. And everyone, have a great rest of your night. Have a great rest of your night. All right, boys and girls and they, them. So I'll talk to you all later. See ya.